Marvel. Twin Supermen. Both of their life code contains the Zod gene lock. Chapter 61. In the underground training facility of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Triskelion headquarters, the morning sunlight streamed through the translucent glass ceiling, casting dappled light onto the alloy floor. Tang Chen, bare-chested, was engaged in strength training. He gripped custom-made titanium alloy dumbbells, and with each lift, the distinct lines of his arm muscles were visible. Sweat trickled down his jawline, dripping onto the floor and forming small damp marks. One more set. Pay attention to your breathing rhythm, don't just use brute force. Natasha's voice came from the edge of the training ground. She leaned against the railing, holding a training log, her black combat suit outlining her sharp physique, and her eyes held a professional scrutiny. Since the last Hydra outpost mission, she had become Tang Chen's exclusive combat instructor, overseeing his basic training every day. Tang Chen nodded, took a deep breath, and lifted the dumbbells again. He could feel the Kryptonian genes within him slowly activating under the sunlight, his strength more abundant than usual, yet he deliberately suppressed it. Natasha had repeatedly emphasized, controlling strength is more important than unleashing it, especially in team combat, where over-reliance on brute force would only lead to friendly fire. Halfway through the training, Natasha suddenly received a communication. She glanced at the screen, her brows furrowing slightly, then said to Tang Chen, "You continue training on your own. I need to handle something. I'll be back in 15 minutes to check your combat moves." Okay. Tang Chen put down the dumbbells, picked up a towel to wipe his sweat, and watched Natasha's retreating figure, feeling a bit puzzled. Her expression seemed somewhat solemn, not like a regular matter, but rather an urgent mission. Soon, Tang Chen was the only one left in the training ground. He walked to the combat area and practiced the combination punches Natasha had taught him against the sandbag, left hook, right straight, side kick. His movements were much smoother than before, and each hit on the sandbag produced a dull thud, yet he didn't send the sandbag flying as he used to, clearly indicating further progress in his strength control. Just then, the training room door suddenly swung open, and Natasha walked in quickly. Tang Chen was about to greet her, but he noticed her state was off. Her eyes were empty, lacking their usual sharpness, and her lips were tightly pressed, as if she was forcibly suppressing something. Her walking posture was also stiffer than usual, her hands slightly clenched into fists, knuckles white, carrying an inexplicable aggression. "Natasha, what's wrong?" Tang Chen stopped his movements, cautiously stepping back. He could feel a strange aura emanating from Natasha, cold and dangerous, completely different from the patient instructor she had been earlier. Natasha didn't answer, but simply walked towards Tang Chen, her pace quickening. When she was 3 meters away from him, she suddenly pulled a small sprayer from her tactical pack, aimed it at Tang Chen, and pressed the button. A pale green gas instantly sprayed out, carrying a pungent, sweet, and metallic smell, like rotting fruit mixed with chemical reagents, rapidly filling the air. Tang Chen's superhuman sense of smell instantly detected the abnormality of the gas. The sweet, metallic smell was mixed with trace amounts of halothane, a potent sedative component, and also an unknown compound he had never encountered before, with an extremely unstable molecular structure. It was clearly not the training smoke grenades commonly used by S.H.I.E.L.D. He instinctively held his breath and simultaneously retreated sharply, avoiding the direct spray range of the gas. "Don't hide." Natasha's voice was hoarse, with a mechanical coldness. "Accept purification, and join us." As she shouted, she charged at Tang Chen, her right hand clenched into a fist, striking fiercely at his chest. The punch was extremely fast and carried considerable force, clearly intended to inflict serious harm. Tang Chen's heart sank, and he instantly understood something. Natasha might have been mind-controlled by Hydra. During the last outpost mission, they had discovered Hydra was researching mind control devices, and he hadn't expected it to be used on S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel so quickly. He dared not directly block Natasha's punch. Her combat skills far surpassed ordinary people, and with her reckless attack style after being controlled, a direct confrontation would only result in mutual injury. Tang Chen dodged her attack by sidestepping, simultaneously extending his left hand to grab her wrist and stop her from attacking further. But Natasha's reaction was even faster. Using the momentum of her sidestep, her left leg swept horizontally, aiming for Tang Chen's knee. Tang Chen quickly jumped to dodge, but when he landed, he found Natasha had already circled behind him, and the sprayer in her right hand was once again aimed at the back of his head. The pale green gas was inches away, its sweet, metallic smell almost invading his nostrils. Tang Chen cursed inwardly, then lunged forward, rolling to avoid the gas, and turned to look at Natasha. Her eyes were still empty, but in the brief pause between attacks, the corner of her eye twitched slightly, as if sending a signal. Tang Chen's pupils contracted sharply. He suddenly remembered that during training yesterday, Natasha had told him, "If one day I am controlled or act abnormally, pay attention to my micro-expressions. I will twitch my eye 3 times to indicate danger, and twice to indicate cooperate." That twitch just now, combined with the 0.5-second delay she deliberately made in her attack, was clearly hinting at him to play along. Is this a test? This thought flashed through Tang Chen's mind instantly. Director Fury had always had reservations about his loyalty. The previous Cosmic Cube test only evaluated his self-control. This time, it was very likely that Natasha was being used as bait to test whether he would choose to protect rather than attack when faced with a controlled teammate, and whether he would remain vigilant rather than easily trusting. Understanding this, Tang Chen immediately adjusted his strategy. He deliberately exposed an opening, allowing Natasha's fist to graze his shoulder, while pretending to inhale a small amount of gas. His body began to sway slightly, and his eyes became confused. What is this, so dizzy? Seeing this, Natasha's attacks became more intense, yet she consistently avoided hitting vital points. Her fists grazed his arm, her kicks bypassed his joints. Each attack was like an act, both realistic and reserved. She raised the sprayer again, aiming the gas at Tang Chen's face, mechanically shouting, "Give up resistance. Join Hydra." Tang Chen pretended to be powerless to resist, falling backward and hitting the alloy floor with a dull thud. He could feel the pale green gas landing on his face, its sweet, metallic smell pungent, but he still held his breath, while observing Natasha with the corner of his eye. A subtle curve appeared at the corner of her mouth, indicating her satisfaction with his cooperation. Just as Natasha bent down to control him, Tang Chen suddenly opened his eyes, his body springing up. He grabbed her wrist with his right hand, locked her elbow joint with his left, and twisted her arm backward, forcing her to release the sprayer. The sprayer clattered to the ground, and Tang Chen kicked it away to prevent it from being used again. You weren't controlled." Natasha's voice was filled with shock, but her body stopped struggling, instead cooperating with Tang Chen's movements as she was slowly pressed to the ground. "Sorry, your acting is still a bit lacking." Tang Chen's voice carried a hint of ease, but he didn't lower his guard. "And this gas, the sweet, metallic smell is too strong, and the sedative component is out of balance. It's clearly a deliberate prop, not real mind control gas." He could feel Natasha's body trembling slightly, not from fear, but from trying to suppress laughter. Tang Chen released her arm, reached out to pull her up, and simultaneously looked at the surveillance camera in the training ground. That was the most likely position for Director Fury to observe from. Sure enough, a few seconds later, Fury's deep voice came through the training ground's intercom, "Test over. Tang Chen, you've passed the loyalty test." Natasha straightened up, rubbing her twisted wrist, her eyes regaining their usual sharpness, and a smile appeared on her lips. "Not bad, you actually saw through my acting and noticed the flaw in the gas. It seems these past few days of training weren't in vain. Your eye twitch and deliberately slowed movements just now were too obvious," Tang Chen said with a smile, but inwardly he felt a little scared. If Natasha hadn't told him the micro-expression signal in advance yesterday, he might have mistakenly thought she was really controlled, leading to a wrong judgment. Either he would attack her or be knocked out by the gas, both of which would count as a failed test. At this moment, Fury walked out of the training grounds control room, holding a tablet computer displaying the recording of the test. He walked up to Tang Chen, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "Your performance just now was excellent. Facing a controlled teammate, you chose not to attack but to try and stop them. Facing the hypnotic gas, you maintained sufficient vigilance and didn't fall for it easily. Most commendably, you were able to see through the deception and cooperate with the act, both protecting your teammate and proving your loyalty. This is precisely the ally SHIELD needs." Tang Chen didn't speak, just nodded. He knew that this test was more difficult than the temptation of the Cosmic Cube. The Cosmic Cube tested self-control, while this test examined his judgment, loyalty, and team awareness, all of which were indispensable qualities for an ally of SHIELD. "Actually, I wasn't sure what you would choose at first," Fury said, his tone unusually gentle. "Many agents, when faced with a controlled teammate, would choose to attack out of fear of being implicated, or be controlled out of soft-heartedness. It's rare that you could find a balance between the two. He paused, then opened another file on the tablet. Since you've passed the test, I can tell you a secret. S.H.I.E.L.D. has long had a method to counter Hydra's mind control technology. The sprayer used just now contained not only harmless gas but also miniature sensors that detect lying reactions. When you pretended to be controlled, your heart rate and breathing remained within the normal range, with no signs of lying, which indicates that you never intended to betray us from the start. Tang Chen's heart trembled slightly. It turned out this test was far more rigorous than he had imagined. Not only did it involve Natasha's acting and gas props, but also hidden sensors detecting physiological reactions. Any slight flaw would have been discovered. He was glad he chose to cooperate rather than resist, and also grateful that Natasha had given him the signal in advance, otherwise, it would have been very difficult to pass this test. Alright, the test is over, continue training. Fury put away the tablet and turned to leave. As he reached the door, he suddenly stopped, turned back, and looked at Tang Chen and Natasha. Oh, by the way, the Starhawk will depart the day after tomorrow. Get yourselves ready. The Mars orbit mission requires your perfect cooperation. After Fury left, only Tang Chen and Natasha remained in the training ground. Natasha walked over to him and handed him a bottle of water. Did I hurt you just now? My last kick seemed to have a bit too much force. No, I'm thick-skinned, that much force is nothing. Tang Chen took the water and drank a mouthful. The cool liquid flowed down his throat, dispelling the heat from the training. But honestly, your acting was very convincing, especially the blank look in your eyes. You almost fooled me. Of course, I've received professional disguise training, Natasha said with a smile, a hint of pride in her tone. But you're also very impressive. Noticing the flaw in the gas, I specifically had the lab formulate it, deliberately adding an excessive sweet, metallic smell, precisely to make you suspicious. Tang Chen looked at Natasha, suddenly recalling the first time on the Chinatown rooftop when she secretly filmed him, recalling her strict corrections of his movements during combat training, recalling her firm stance in front of him during the Hydra stronghold mission, and her silent cooperation in this test. His gratitude and admiration grew stronger and stronger. This woman was not only his coach but also his teammate, a trustworthy partner. Thank you, Natasha. Tang Chen's voice was full of sincerity. If you hadn't told me the micro-expression signal yesterday, I definitely wouldn't have passed this test. Don't thank me, it's what teammates should do. Natasha's tone became serious. But this test also reminds you that when carrying out missions in the future, you must always remain vigilant. Whether it's enemies or teammates, you can't easily trust anyone. The human heart is the most complex, especially in times of crisis. Betrayal and loyalty often lie in a single thought. Tang Chen nodded, taking Natasha's words to heart. He walked to the combat area, picked up the sandbag again, and began practicing combination punches. This time, his movements were even more determined, each punch carrying a clear goal, not just to become stronger, but to protect those he wanted to protect, to not betray his teammates' trust, and to become a truly qualified ally of S.H.I.E.L.D. The sunlight streamed through the translucent glass, falling on Tang Chen, casting a long shadow. The thump-thump of fists hitting the sandbag echoed in the training ground, firm and powerful, as if announcing the growth of a young man, announcing his gradual transformation from a lost alien orphan into a responsible, accountable, and vigilant guardian. Natasha leaned against the railing, watching Tang Chen's training back, a relieved smile on her lips. She took out the training log and, next to Tang Chen's name, wrote the following evaluation: excellent control of strength, skilled in combat techniques, extremely vigilant, reliable loyalty, possesses the potential to become a top agent, trustworthy and dependable. She knew that after this test, Tang Chen had not only earned Director Fury's trust but also her approval. With such a teammate by her side for the future Mars orbit mission, she felt a greater sense of confidence. The Sun Lamp training room at the S.H.I.E.L.D. Triskelion headquarters was a completely enclosed circular space. The walls were made of special translucent alloy, embedded with 36 sets of adjustable spectrum sun lamps. At this moment, they emitted a warm yellow light, identical to Earth's yellow sun, illuminating the entire training room as if it were daytime. Tang Chen wore a specially designed black training suit. The fabric enhanced energy absorption efficiency, and the silver patterns on the collar and cuffs were energy guidance devices, helping him to more precisely control the Kryptonian energy within him. He stood in the center of the training room, looking at the tablet computer Hill handed him. The screen displayed S.H.I.E.L.D.'s latest yellow sun spectrum analysis report, with dense data and charts that made him a little dizzy. This is an analysis we conducted in conjunction with NASA and the Institute for Astrophysics. Hill's finger slid across the screen, bringing up a set of colored spectral graphs. The yellow sun's energy is mainly concentrated in the 500 to 600 nanometer visible light band, and also the near-infrared band above 700 nanometers. These two bands are most efficient at activating Kryptonian genes, enhancing muscle density, neural reaction speed, and cellular regeneration capability. She paused, pointing to a peak on the chart. Especially the 589 nanometer sodium D line, which stimulates the flight gene segment within you. This is what we will focus on testing today. Tang Chen's eyes lit up instantly. Flight, this was one of the abilities he most longed to unlock, and also the most iconic talent of Kryptonians. He recalled the images of Superman flying that he had seen on the crisis list, and his helplessness every time Zod threatened him. If he could master flight, he would be able to protect his adoptive parents faster and respond to enemy attacks more flexibly. How do we test it? Tang Chen's voice carried a hint of eagerness. He couldn't help but flex his wrists, feeling the Kryptonian genes within him becoming slightly active under the sun lamps. It was as if tiny electric currents flowed through his blood, bringing waves of warm tingling. First, we'll conduct basic ability tests to see the data improvements, then we'll attempt flight guidance. Hill pressed a button on the training room wall. A metal stand slowly rose from the floor, with a display screen and a set of sensors fixed to it. This is an energy sensor, which can monitor your energy level and gene activation degree in real time. We will adjust the sun lamps, spectrum and intensity based on the data. Tang Chen walked to the sensor and, following Hill's instructions, extended his right hand, pressing his palm against the sensing screen. The screen instantly lit up, with dense green data rapidly fluctuating. Muscle density, 3.8 grams per cc. Last test 2.5 grams per cc. Neural reaction speed, 0.08 seconds. Last test 0.12 seconds. Cellular regeneration efficiency, 3.2 times baseline. Last test 2.1 times. Energy reserve, 68%. Last test 45%. The improvement is significant. Hill's tone carried a hint of surprise. Especially muscle density and energy reserve, which are 20% higher than we expected. It seems that specific bands of the yellow sun indeed have a miraculous effect on you. She adjusted the parameters of the sun lamps, and the warm yellow light instantly became brighter. Now, we'll increase the intensity of the 589 nanometer band. Try to concentrate, feel the flow of energy within your body, especially in your back and leg muscle groups. According to the Kryptonian gene model, these two areas are the main energy output points during flight. Tang Chen nodded, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. He could feel the sun lamps, light becoming more scorching, energy surging into his body like a tide, flowing through his blood throughout his entire body, and finally converging in his back and legs. The muscles in his back began to tense slightly, as if something wanted to break free from within. The muscles in his legs also became exceptionally powerful. Tiptoeing slightly, he could feel an upward pull. Very good, maintain this state. Try to imagine yourself becoming lighter, floating like a feather. Hill's voice was guiding. Don't use brute force, use your consciousness to control the energy flow, let the energy lift you upwards. Tang Chen followed her instructions, concentrating all his attention on controlling the energy. He imagined himself standing on clouds, wind blowing past his ears, his body getting lighter and lighter. Suddenly, he felt a faint upward force from the soles of his feet, and his body actually left the ground, rising about 10 centimeters. Success. Try again, increase the energy output. Hill's voice was filled with excitement. Tang Chen's heart swelled with joy, and he immediately increased his energy output. But just then, he suddenly felt the energy flow become chaotic. The energy in his back was too strong, and the energy in his legs couldn't keep up. His body instantly lost balance, tilted to the left, and he fell heavily to the ground with a dull thud. Are you all right? Hill quickly ran over, reaching out to help him up. I'm fine. Tang Chen got up from the ground, rubbed his sore shoulder, but couldn't help but smile. I really lifted off just now. Even though it was only 10 centimeters, I felt that upward force. Don't rush, flight requires precise energy control, it's not something achieved overnight. Hill handed him a bottle of water. Kryptonian flight genes require repeated stimulation and practice to master energy balance. We'll take it slowly, starting with hovering. For the next hour, Tang Chen repeatedly attempted to hover. He lifted off again and again, and fell again and again due to energy imbalance. sometimes tilting forward due to excessive back energy, sometimes leaning back due to insufficient leg energy, and sometimes even spinning down due to arm energy interference. His training suit was covered in dust, and he had several new bruises, but he showed no sign of giving up. Hill patiently guided him from the side, constantly adjusting the sun lamp parameters based on the energy sensor data, occasionally using gestures to remind him to adjust the energy output to specific areas, decrease back energy by 10%, increase leg energy by 5%. Good, maintain this balance. Don't exert force with your arms, it will interfere with the lift. Gradually, Tang Chen found some tricks. He discovered that the key to hovering was not pushing upwards, but rather, allowing energy to evenly envelop the body, like an invisible cushion supporting him. When he focused his attention and allowed the energy to form a stable protective layer around his body, he could lift off the ground steadily, no longer swaying as before. Excellent. You can now hover steadily at 30 centimeters. Try ascending again. Hill's voice was full of encouragement. Tang Chen took a deep breath and slowly increased his energy output. His body slowly ascended. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters. When he reached over 3 meters high, he finally stabilized, hovering in the center of the training room. Looking down, he could see Hill's relieved smile and the small energy sensor on the ground. I did it. I really flew. Tang Chen was filled with excitement and couldn't help but wave his arm, but this very action once again broke the energy balance. His body instantly tilted to the right, and he fell down like a kite with a broken string. Thud. This fall was heavier than before. Tang Chen felt a sharp pain in his back, and his vision even blurred for a moment. He lay on the ground, gasping for breath, yet he couldn't help but laugh. Although he fell clumsily, he had finally successfully hovered over 3 meters high. This was the closest he had ever been to flying. Just then, a mocking male voice suddenly came from the training room's loudspeaker. The sound quality was a bit distorted, clearly indicating a remote connection. Oh. What's this? Shield's newly developed human kite. It looks quite convincing when it flies up, and even more so when it falls down. Tang Chen and Hill were both startled. Hill immediately walked to the control panel and brought up the surveillance footage. On the screen appeared a man in a red battlesuit, sitting in a futuristic laboratory, a playful smile on his lips. It was Tony Stark, who had just returned from Afghanistan. Stark, how did you access SHIELD's internal surveillance? Hill's voice was laced with displeasure as she reached out to cut off the communication. Don't be so serious, Hill. Tony raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. I was just helping Fury debug a new security system and accidentally saw this alien friend practicing his flight. I have to say, your posture is even clumsier than when I first tried on my battlesuit, but your courage is commendable. Tang Chen's cheeks flushed slightly, and he awkwardly scrambled to his feet. He hadn't expected Tony Stark to see him stumble so clumsily, let alone be teased as a human kite. He felt both embarrassed and a little indignant. Mr. Stark, I'm just trying to fly for the first time, I'm not very skilled yet. Tang Chen walked to the control panel and said to the screen, once I master the technique, I'll definitely fly more flexibly than your battlesuit. Oh, quite confident, aren't we? Tony raised an eyebrow, a hint of admiration in his voice, but flying isn't about brute force. It requires precise energy control and knowledge of aerodynamics. If you want to master it quickly, you can come to my lab. I'll help you design an energy guidance device, guaranteed to make you say goodbye to the human kite title. Hill frowned. Stark, this is SHIELD's internal training, involving classified alien genetic information. You can't. Don't worry, I know the rules, Tony interrupted her, his tone becoming a little more serious, but I'm very interested in this Kryptonian friend, able to absorb solar energy and fly. He's practically natural superhero material. When Fury asked me to help analyze the Zod family's weapon data, I saw his file, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to say hello. He paused, then said to Tang Chen, practice hard. Next time we meet, I don't want to see you falling flat on your face again. Oh, and if you need flight technique guidance, you can always contact me through Hill. After all, when it comes to flying, I have a lot more experience than these old fuddy-duddies at S.H.I.E.L.D. With that, Tony's image disappeared from the screen, and the communication was cut off. Silence returned to the training room, broken only by the hum of the solar lamps and Tang Chen's slightly hurried breathing. Don't mind his teasing. That's just Stark's personality. Hill patted Tang Chen's shoulder, a hint of helplessness in her voice, but he has a point. flying requires precise energy control and scientific methods. We could consider collaborating with him to use his technology to help you master flying faster." Tang Chen nodded, his embarrassment replaced by excitement. Tony Stark's approval and offer of help made him more confident in mastering flight. He walked to the center of the training room, closed his eyes again, and felt the energy from the solar lamps. Although he had fallen hard just now, his Kryptonian genes were becoming more active under the continuous energy stimulation, and the muscles in his back and legs were adapting more and more to the rhythm of energy output. "One more time," Tang Chen told Hill, his voice resolute. Hill nodded and adjusted the solar lamp parameters. "Take it slow this time. First, stabilize your hover, then try small movements. Don't rush it." Tang Chen took a deep breath, concentrating all his attention. Energy once again gathered around his body, forming a stable protective layer. His body slowly lifted off the ground. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, this time, he didn't rush to wave his arms but tried to consciously control his body to move to the left. Although the movement was small, only a few tens of centimeters, he didn't lose his balance. "Very good. Hold it. Now try moving to the right." Hill's voice was full of encouragement. Tang Chen followed her instructions, slowly moving to the right, then trying forward, backward. Although his movements were slow and clumsy, like a toddler learning to walk, he was indeed making progress, no longer falling as soon as he moved. The light from the solar lamps passed through his training suit, shining on Tang Chen's skin, bringing warm energy. He could feel his internal energy reserves growing, his control over energy becoming more precise, and the sensation of flying becoming clearer. It wasn't just simple lifting off, but a fusion with the air and with energy, a newfound sense of freedom. "Let's take a break. You've been practicing for 3 hours. Your body needs to adapt." Hill checked the time and reminded him, "The energy sensor shows your energy reserves have reached 85%. Continuing to train might lead to overexhaustion and affect your preparation for tomorrow's mission." Tang Chen nodded, slowly reducing his energy output, and his body landed steadily on the ground. He rubbed his sore shoulders. Although he was drenched in sweat and had several bruises, his heart was full of joy. Today, not only had his abilities significantly improved, but he had also successfully hovered over 3 meters high and even received Tony Stark's approval. All of this brought him one step closer to his goal of protecting his family. "Thank you, Hill." Tang Chen's voice was full of sincerity. "If it weren't for the research data you brought and your patient guidance, I wouldn't have made such rapid progress." "Don't thank me. This is part of our cooperation." Hill put away her tablet, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "But your own efforts are more important. Few people can master energy control in such a short time, let alone attempt flight." Director Fury was right. You truly have the potential to become a top-tier protector. As he walked out of the training room, the sun had already set, its soft golden light filtering through the transparent corridor of the Triskelion headquarters and falling upon Tang Chen. He touched the communicator in his pocket, thinking again of Tony Stark's teasing and offer, his heart filled with anticipation. Tomorrow's Mars orbit mission, though dangerous, now felt more manageable. Not only because of his improved abilities, but also because he was no longer fighting alone. He had the support of S.H.I.E.L.D., the companionship of his teammates, and even the unexpected assistance of Tony Stark. Back in the lounge, Tang Chen lay on the bed, closing his eyes, his mind replaying the sensation of hovering, that weightless freedom, the warm flow of energy, the joy of breaking through his own limits. He knew that flying was just the beginning. In the future, he would unlock more Kryptonian abilities, face more powerful enemies, and shoulder greater responsibilities. "Dad, Mom, wait for me," Tang Chen murmured in his heart. "I will definitely become stronger. Not only will I be able to fly, but I'll also protect you, protect Earth, and prevent you from ever being harmed again." The moonlight from outside the window shone through the glass, casting a soft glow on Tang Chen's face. A gentle smile played on his lips, filled with anticipation for the future, as he gradually drifted into sleep. In his dream, he finally mastered flight, soaring over Chinatown, watching his adoptive parents wave at him with smiles from the entrance of their grocery store, the sunlight bathing him, warm and free. The helipad of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Triskelion headquarters was bathed in the morning sun, which was particularly dazzling. A silver-red Quinjet fighter broke through the clouds and slowly descended. The side of the fuselage bore the striking, Stark Industries logo. This wasn't standard S.H.I.E.L.D. equipment, but rather someone's private vehicle. The hatch opened, and the first thing to touch the ground was a pair of gleaming red metal combat boots. Following closely, Tony Stark emerged fully clad in his Mark III armor. The alloy surface of the armor gleamed with a cold, hard luster in the sunlight, and the pulse cannons on his shoulders were still radiating a faint heat, clearly indicating a recent short-distance flight. He raised a hand and pressed the helmet's unlock button, and the faceplate slowly retracted, revealing his face with its characteristic devil-may-care smile. His gaze swept over the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents on the helipad, an undisguised arrogance in his eyes. "Where's Fury? Don't tell me he's hiding in a bunker again." Like a light-fearing mole, Tony's voice boomed through the armor's loudspeaker, with a playful echo. "Oh, and my human kite friend, not sunbathing in the training room today." Tang Chen and Hill happened to be passing by the helipad. Hearing this, Tang Chen paused. He was wearing a black training suit, having just finished his morning energy control training, and beads of sweat still clung to his forehead. When he heard the taunt of human kite, his cheeks flushed slightly, but he didn't feel as awkward as last time. Instead, he met Tony's gaze, a hint of defiance in his eyes. "Stark, this is S.H.I.E.L.D., not your private lab," Hill said with displeasure, stepping forward to block Tony's line of sight. "Director Fury is waiting for you in the briefing room. Are you ready with the analysis data on the Zod family's weapons?" "Of course, I never fight unprepared battles." Tony patted the chest of his armor, where the arc reactor glowed with a faint blue light. "But before we get down to business, I need to see our Kryptonian hero. I heard you fell 8 more times yesterday. Looks like sunbathing isn't a panacea, you still need some real skill." Tang Chen walked to Hill's side and looked directly at Tony. "What's wrong with sunbathing? At least my abilities don't rely on armor. I don't have to fear running out of energy, and I certainly don't have to fear being hacked." He paused, then deliberately lifted his chin. "And today I can already hover stably for 5 minutes, unlike some people who find even jogging tiring without their armor." "Oh, quite the temper." Tony raised an eyebrow, circling Tang Chen with interest, as if appraising an item. "But your abilities really aren't very technical. Absorbing solar energy, strengthening muscles, essentially no different from a solar panel, just a bit more alive." He raised a hand to signal his attendants behind him. "Bring the stuff over." 2 engineers in Stark Industries uniforms pushed a metal cart over, on which lay the wreckage of a discarded Mark I armor. The armor was riddled with bullet holes, its left arm was broken, and the arc reactor had long since failed. It was clearly the prototype Tony had built in Afghanistan in his early days, which S.H.I.E.L.D. had recovered and stored in a warehouse. "Since you're so confident, how about we make a bet?" Tony pointed at the armor wreckage, a challenging smile on his face. "The target is this piece of scrap metal. Let's see who can dismantle it faster. You use your solar power, and I'll use my lack of technical skill, technology. Whoever renders it completely non-functional first wins." Tang Chen glanced at the armor wreckage, then at Tony's confident expression, and his competitive spirit was fully ignited. "It's a bet. But if I win, you have to retract your human kite and no technical skill remarks. If you win, I'll admit that technology is more useful than brute force." "Deal." Tony extended his hand and shook Tang Chen's. His palm, separated by the metal layer of his armor, had a cool touch, a stark contrast to Tang Chen's warm hand. "We'll use the underground training room as the venue, with Fury and Hill as referees. How about it?" Just then, Fury walked over. Hearing their conversation, a subtle smile played on his lips. "I have no objections. It'll be interesting to see whether alien superpowers are more formidable, or if Earth technology will prevail." The underground training room was temporarily cleared, and the armor wreckage was fixed in the center of the area. Tony took off his armor, wearing only a black combat suit, and held a silver tablet in his hand. It was his latest smart terminal, capable of connecting to all Stark Industries databases and even infiltrating most non-military systems. Tang Chen, meanwhile, stretched his wrists and walked to the left side of the armor. Sunlight streamed through the translucent glass of the training room onto him, and he could feel the Kryptonian genes in his body subtly activating, his strength slowly accumulating. 3, 2, 1, go. Hill pressed the timer and shouted. Almost simultaneously, both Tang Chen and Tony moved. Tang Chen rushed to the armor, grabbed its right arm with both hands, took a deep breath, and his internal energy instantly erupted, muscle lines clearly defined beneath his training suit, veins on his arms bulging like earthworms. The armor's alloy plating began to deform under his strength, emitting a grating creak. "Hey, only barbarians tear things." Tony's voice came from behind the tablet. His fingers flew across the screen, code streaming like a waterfall. Watch what efficiency looks like. He pressed a red button on the tablet, and an invisible electromagnetic wave was emitted from the terminal, precisely hitting the armor's control panel, where Stark Industries' original code still remained. Tony took only 10 seconds to bypass the firewall and infiltrate the armor's core program. Tang Chen ignored Tony's taunt and continued to exert force. He grabbed the armor's right arm and yanked it upwards. With a snap, the alloy joint was ripped apart, and the wreckage, with its wires and hydraulic tubes, was thrown to the ground with a dull thud. Next, he grabbed the armor's chest plate and pulled it open with both hands. The armor tore like paper, revealing the rusted internal structure. The arc reactor's casing also deformed under his strength, completely beyond repair. Halfway there, Solar Boy. Tony's voice was triumphant. His tablet displayed, "Invasion successful," and the armor's head suddenly glowed red, then began to slowly self-disassemble. The arms, legs, and chest armor detached sequentially, internal wiring and parts automatically disassembling, like a precise set of building blocks being taken apart according to a program. My program can turn it into parts in 30 seconds. No matter how fast you tear it, you won't be as clean as me. Tang Chen didn't stop. He grabbed the mech's left leg and yanked it again, and the alloy skeleton snapped. His movements became faster and faster. The mech was like a fragile toy in front of him, with parts and armor fragments scattered all over the floor. The sound of tearing metal echoed in the training room, making people's ears ache. When Tony's program completed the final step of disassembly, Tang Chen also threw the last piece of the mech's armor to the ground. Only a pile of twisted metal wreckage remained in the center of the field, a stark contrast to the neatly arranged parts on Tony's side. Time. Hill pressed the timer, and the screen showed that both completed at the same time. Draw. Tony's smile froze on his face. He looked at the twisted wreckage on Tang Chen's side, then at his own neatly arranged parts, and snorted unconvinced. What kind of draw is this? My method is more efficient and cleaner. What he did was destruction, not disassembly. But you can't deny that his destructive power far exceeded your expectations. Fury walked over, pointing at the wreckage on Tang Chen's side. This mech's alloy can withstand the impact of small missiles, but he can tear it apart directly with his hands. This kind of power is more direct and effective in actual combat than your program. Tang Chen gasped, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and looked at Tony. Draw. A bet is a bet. You have to retract what you said earlier. I didn't say I'd retract the "no technical content" comment. Tony put away his tablet but couldn't help but glance at the pile of twisted metal a few more times, a hint of complexity in his eyes. However, your strength is indeed more troublesome than I imagined. If you ever lose your mind and try to dismantle my armor, I'll have to add a few more layers of protection. Though he spoke defiantly, he was inwardly shocked by Tang Chen's destructive power. He knew the strength of Stark Industries' alloys best. Even the Mark III armor might not be torn apart as easily as Tang Chen did, let alone using brute force to dismantle the entire mech into scrap metal. This raw yet powerful force was something technology couldn't replicate, and it was what made people most apprehensive. All right, enough with the jokes. Fury interrupted their argument. Stark, where are the weapon analysis data for the Zod family? We need to adjust the Starhawk's weapon system based on the data. We're departing tomorrow. Of course, it's here. Tony took out a USB flash drive and handed it to Fury. I analyzed the weapon fragments you provided. The energy core uses ancient Kryptonian technology, but it was modified by the Zod family to incorporate my arc reactor principles. Very clever, but it also has flaws. I've marked the weaknesses in the data, so you can adapt your weapons accordingly. He paused, then looked at Tang Chen. Although your ability has no technical content, it is indeed useful in actual combat. For tomorrow's Mars mission, if you encounter the Zod family's mechs, remember not to tear them apart with your hands. Aim for the energy conduits at the joints. That's the weak point. It's much faster than tearing off the armor. Tang Chen was stunned for a moment, not expecting Tony to offer advice voluntarily. The earlier defiance in his heart gradually dissipated, and he nodded. Thank you. If you need help testing the protective strength of your armor, I can give it a try. No thanks, I don't want my armor to end up as that pile of scrap metal. Tony rolled his eyes but couldn't help but smile. But if you want to upgrade your energy control, I can help you design a set of energy guiding wristbands. They're much better than those old relics from S.H.I.E.L.D. Hill watched their interaction, a hint of a relieved smile on her lips. She knew that although Tony was arrogant, He had already acknowledged Tang Chen's abilities, and Tang Chen, from his initial defiance, gradually accepted Tony's suggestions. This was a good sign for the upcoming Mars mission. As they left the training room, Tony put on his Mark III armor again and walked over to Tang Chen, saying in a voice only they could hear, "Remember, kid, strength is important, but a brain is more important. Next time we bet, I'll show you what technological crush is." "Anytime," Tang Chen replied with a smile, his eyes full of confidence. Watching Tony's Quinjet disappear into the clouds, Tang Chen touched the communicator in his pocket, his heart full of emotion. He had once thought that superpowers were the strongest weapon, but he had seen the power of technology in Tony, and although Tony disdained superpowers, he had to admit Tang Chen's destructive power. Technology and superpowers, perhaps they were not opposed, but could be complementary. "What are you thinking about?" Hill walked over and handed Tang Chen a bottle of water. "I'm thinking that for tomorrow's mission, perhaps we can combine technology and superpowers for even better results." Tang Chen took the water, took a sip. "Tony's weak point analysis is very useful. We can adjust the Starhawk's weapons to target the energy conduits of the Zod family's mechs. I'll be responsible for drawing fire, and you'll be responsible for precision strikes." "That's a good idea," Hill nodded. "Director Fury thinks so too. Although Tony is arrogant, his technology is indeed top-notch. With his support, our mission success rate will increase significantly." Tang Chen looked in the direction of the training room, where the remnants of the mech still lay. Sunlight streamed through the glass, glinting off the metal. He knew that this confrontation with Tony had not only made him realize the importance of technology but also made him clearer about his own strengths. Brute force was not the only weapon. Using it wisely, combined with his teammates' technology and tactics, could maximize its effect. Back in the lounge, Tang Chen took out Tony's weapon analysis data and carefully examined the weaknesses marked on it, the location, material, and energy fluctuation frequency of the energy conduits. Every detail was clearly marked, showing Tony's professionalism and diligence. He remembered Tony's advice before he left, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl upwards. Perhaps this arrogant tech genius would become another ally for him on Earth. The sunlight outside the window grew stronger and stronger. Tang Chen walked to the window, stretched out his hand, and felt the warmth of the sun. The Kryptonian genes in his body were active, and power was accumulating. He knew that tomorrow's Mars mission would be very dangerous, but he was no longer as nervous as before, because he had powerful teammates, advanced technological support, and his own continuously growing superpowers. "Zod, wait for me," Tang Chen silently said in his heart. "This time, I won't let you succeed again. I will use my power, combined with Earth's technology, to protect the Codex, protect Earth, and protect everything I care about." As the sun set, the lights of the shield Triskelion headquarters gradually lit up, like stars in the night sky. Tang Chen lay on the bed, holding Tony's analysis data in his hand, and gradually fell asleep. In his dream, he and Tony fought side by side. He used his strength to tear apart the Zod family's mechs, and Tony used technology to precisely strike weaknesses. The two cooperated perfectly, ultimately successfully stopping Zod's plan and winning the victory. In the abandoned warehouse district of Brooklyn, New York, the night wind carried the musty smell of rotting garbage, whistling mournfully as it swept over rusty tin roofs. Streetlights, dim and yellow, glowed faintly through the fog, barely illuminating the pockmarked dirt road beneath, which was littered with broken glass and discarded cardboard boxes. Occasionally, a stray cat would dart out of the shadows, its eyes wary, before disappearing into the depths of the warehouses. A Shield tactical SUV was parked in a hidden corner on the outskirts of the warehouse district, its lights off, its body blending seamlessly with the shadows. Inside the vehicle, Hill was using a tactical flashlight to illuminate a yellowed map, her fingertip tracing a clear route. The target stronghold is Warehouse Number 3, formerly a food processing plant. It has 3 floors. The ground floor is the storage area, the second floor is the office area, and the third floor is the suspected intelligence room. According to reconnaissance, there are 12 Hydra agents inside, armed with Alaska 47s and grenades, no heavy weapons, but... She paused, the flashlight beam moving to a residential building, marked on the map, her tone serious. 50 meters west of the warehouse is a residential building, home to 8 civilian families, all elderly and children. The core rules for this mission are: capture them alive if possible, prioritize obtaining intelligence, and absolutely do not harm civilians. Hill emphasized the last 8 words, her gaze sweeping over the 5 agents, including Tang Chen, before resting on Tang Chen's face with a deliberate reminder. Tang Chen, I know you have strong feelings about Hydra, but remember, we are S.H.I.E.L.D., not a revenge organization. These agents may possess intelligence regarding Hydra's connection to the Zod family. A living person is more valuable than a corpse. Tang Chen's fingers clenched tightly around the tactical glove on his knee, his knuckles turning white. He could feel the Kryptonian genes within him stirring. The scene of his adoptive parents being kidnapped last time flashed clearly in his mind. The sneering faces of the Hydra agents, Lin Sholian's trembling hands, Tang Zhongguo's tense face. These images pricked at his heart like needles, making him instinctively resist the words, "capture alive." But he still nodded. I understand. Good that you understand. Hill put away the map and opened her communicator. All units, attention, operation initiated. Infiltrate along the predetermined route. Rendezvous on the ground floor of warehouse number 3 in 15 minutes. Tang Chen, you are responsible for clearing the perimeter guards. Be careful not to make too much noise. Understood. Tang Chen pushed open the car door and silently merged into the night. His tactical suit was a specially made dark camouflage, allowing him to hide in the shadows. His footsteps were light, and his Kryptonian senses allowed him to clearly distinguish the movements around him. 2 guards were smoking 50 meters away, the flickering flame of a lighter flashing in the darkness. A surveillance camera at the warehouse entrance was slowly rotating left and right. Inside a second-floor window, an agent was pacing back and forth, his gun occasionally tapping the window frame, making a soft, click, sound. He crouched low and approached the perimeter guards. The 2 were facing away from him, conversing in low voices about handing over intelligence to Zod's people tomorrow. Tang Chen's eyes instantly turned cold. His right hand formed a fist, and in the moment of gathering strength, he could feel his muscles tensing, but at the last second, he remembered Hill's admonition and forcibly reined in his power. He pounced like a cheetah, his left hand covering the mouth of the guard on the left, his right hand gripping his wrist, and with a gentle twist, a crack sound, the guard's wrist dislocated and his body slumped softly to the ground without making a sound. The guard on the right had just reacted when Tang Chen had already moved behind him, his elbow pressing against the back of his neck, pushing down with force. The guard's cervical spine was impacted, and he instantly lost consciousness, caught steadily by Tang Chen and placed on the ground. After clearing the perimeter, Tang Chen whispered into his communicator, "Perimeter clear, safe." He moved along the warehouse wall, found the ventilation duct entrance marked by Hill, grabbed the edges of the duct with both hands, and pulled gently. The rusted grill came off. He climbed into the duct, which was filled with dust and the smell of rats, and crawled for about 10 meters until he reached the area above the ground floor storage. Looking down through the gaps in the duct, 4 guards were patrolling on the ground floor, their Alaska 47s gleaming coldly in the dim light. Tall cardboard boxes were stacked around them, emblazoned with the words, "Food additives," yet emitting a faint smell of gunpowder. They were clearly disguised weapon crates. Tang Chen seized the opportunity, and as one guard passed beneath the duct, he leapt down. His feet made a slight sound upon landing. The guard was about to turn when Tang Chen had already rushed in front of him, his right hand covering his mouth, his left hand pressed against his chest, and with a gentle push, the guard's chest took a heavy blow, and he instantly fell unconscious. The other 3 guards heard the commotion and immediately raised their guns at Tang Chen. "Don't move." Tang Chen didn't panic. He used the cardboard boxes as cover. Moving quickly, the guard on the left fired, the bullet hitting a cardboard box with a muffled thud. Tang Chen seized the chance to rush in front of him, grabbed the gun barrel, and twisted hard. The AK-47's barrel was forcibly bent. He then punched the guard in the abdomen, and the guard crumpled to the ground. The remaining 2 guards charged simultaneously. Tang Chen sidestepped the left one's attack, grabbed his arm with his right hand, and pulled him, making him collide with the guard on the right. The 2 crashed into each other. Tang Chen took the opportunity to strike the back of their necks, and in less than 30 seconds, all the guards on the ground floor were subdued, with no fatalities. Ground floor cleared. Tang Chen reported into his communicator, looking at the unconscious guards on the ground. His anger had not dissipated. Instead, it grew stronger. These people might have innocent blood on their hands, yet due to the "capture alive" rule, they couldn't receive the punishment they deserved. Received. Rendezvous on the second floor immediately. We've run into a bit of trouble. Hill's voice carried a hint of urgency. Tang Chen quickly ran up the stairs. The lights in the second floor office area were dim. Hill and the other 3 agents were hiding behind desks, carefully aiming at an office at the end of the corridor. He approached Hill and asked in a low voice, "What happened?" "There's an agent inside, holding a civilian hostage." Hill pointed to the office door. Through the crack, a woman could be seen clutching a child, trembling, while an agent in black combat gear held a gun to the woman's temple. He said if we go in, he'll kill the hostage and detonate explosives in the office. Tang Chen's pupils constricted. Through the crack in the door, he could see tear stains on the woman's face, and the child, eyes squeezed shut in fear, clung tightly to the woman's neck. The agent's face wore a sneer, and he cursed, "Shield scum. Come in if you dare. I don't want to live anymore anyway, taking 2 with me is worth it." "Does he have intelligence?" Tang Chen's voice was icy, his fingers clenched into fists, and the power within him began to surge uncontrollably. "According to previous intelligence, he is the intelligence officer for this stronghold and may know the time and location of Hydra's dealings with the Zod family." Hill's tone was solemn. "We are trying to negotiate. We can't force our way in, the hostage is too dangerous." "Negotiate? What's there to negotiate with a scumbag like him?" Tang Chen's voice rose a few octaves. "He won't release the hostage. He'll just stall for time, waiting for his accomplices to arrive." "Even so, we can't risk it." Hill pressed Tang Chen's shoulder. "Wait a little longer, the negotiator is already on the way and will be here in 5 minutes. Just then, a child's cry came from the office. The agent irritably kicked a table. "What are you crying for? Cry again and I'll shoot your mom." The woman, terrified, quickly covered the child's mouth, her tears falling even harder. Tang Chen's rationality instantly crumbled. He remembered Lin Sholian's appearance when she was kidnapped, Tang Zhongguo's worried eyes, and the innocent people harmed by Hydra. He couldn't wait any longer, he couldn't watch the hostage get hurt. "Get out of the way." Tang Chen pushed Hill's hand away and charged towards the office door. "Tang Chen, don't be impulsive," Hill shouted, trying to stop him, but she was a step too late. Tang Chen kicked open the office door. The agent turned around in surprise, and just as he was about to pull the trigger, Tang Chen had already rushed in front of him, his right hand flashing out to grab his wrist. With a forceful twist, a loud crack, the agent's wrist was broken, and the gun fell to the floor. Tang Chen didn't stop. His left hand clasped the agent's throat, pressing him against the wall, his fingers tightening. "Let go of me, let go." The agent's face turned crimson, struggling to breathe, his hands futilely grabbing Tang Chen's arm, but he couldn't budge his strength. The woman, holding her child, cowered in the corner, too scared to make a sound. Hill and the other agents rushed in and froze at the sight. "Tang Chen, stop it." Hill's voice carried an unprecedented sternness. She raised her gun, aiming at Tang Chen's back. "Let him go. Are you trying to break the rules?" Tang Chen's fingers paused. He looked at the agent's twisted face, remembering how he had threatened the hostage, and the anger in his heart erupted again. "This scum deserves to die. If I let him go, he'll hurt more people. I'm saying it again, let him go." Hill's finger was on the trigger, her tone firm. "He is an important source of intelligence. If we kill him, we won't find the connection between Hydra and Zod, and more people will die because of your impulsiveness. If you want to protect civilians, you should be even calmer." Tang Chen's arm trembled, and the pressure in his fingers gradually lessened. He looked at the woman and child in the corner. The woman was watching him with a mixture of gratitude and fear, and the child had stopped crying but was still clinging tightly to her. He remembered Hill's words, and the objective of the mission. If he killed this agent, they might indeed lose crucial intelligence, leading to a greater disaster. Finally, he let go. The agent slumped to the ground, gasping for air, clear finger marks left on his neck. 2 agents immediately stepped forward, subdued him, and handcuffed him. "Take him back and interrogate him thoroughly." Hill lowered her gun, her tone still cold. She looked at Tang Chen, her eyes filled with disappointment. "Come with me." The 2 walked out to the open space outside the warehouse. The night wind grew colder, blowing on Tang Chen's face and helping him calm down slightly. Hill leaned against the wall, pulled a cigarette from her pocket, but didn't light it, just held it in her hand. "Do you know you almost made a huge mistake just now?" Hill's voice was calm but carried a heavy pressure. "If he had died, we would have lost the chance to find Zod's dealings with Hydra. How many civilians would die if they got their hands on Kryptonian weapons? Your so-called eradicating evil is just your desire for revenge at play." Desire for revenge. Tang Chen's emotions also flared up. He pointed towards the warehouse. Didn't you see him threatening the hostage? Didn't you see that child trembling in fear? If I hadn't rushed in, the hostage might already be dead. Is your so-called procedural justice just watching innocent people get hurt? I'm not watching them get hurt. Hill raised her voice. I'm thinking of a more secure method. The negotiator is almost here. We could have used cunning instead of your uncontrolled brute force. SHIELD's rules are not shackles, they are to ensure we complete our missions while protecting more people. Do you think I don't hate Hydra? I've seen too many people harmed by them, but I know that impulsiveness won't solve the problem. Only by getting intelligence and destroying their entire network can we truly prevent harm. Tang Chen was stunned. He looked at Hill, noticing for the first time the weariness and heaviness in her eyes, unlike her usual calm and resolute demeanor. He remembered Hill saying before that she joined S.H.I.E.L.D. because her family was killed by a terrorist organization. She knew the taste of hatred better than anyone, yet she still chose to restrain herself with rules and reason. Tang Chen's voice softened, the anger in his heart gradually replaced by guilt. I just didn't want to see the hostage get hurt. It reminded me of when my parents were kidnapped. I understand how you feel. Hill's tone softened. She put the cigarette back in her pocket. But precisely because you've experienced it, you should be even calmer. Your power is immense, that's your advantage. But if controlled by emotions, it becomes a dangerous weapon that can harm not only enemies but also allies, and the very people you want to protect. She paused, looking into Tang Chen's eyes. I'm not asking you to abandon hatred, but to transform it into motivation, to fight Hydra in a more effective way. This incident, I can choose not to report it, but there won't be a next time. Remember, SHIELD's mission is never about eliminating evil, but about protecting good. Protecting more people from harm is more important than killing one bad person. Tang Chen was silent for a long time. The wind stirred up dust from the ground, settling on his shoulders. He thought of the woman holding her child, of Hill's words, of what Fury had said. True strength is the wisdom to control power. He finally understood where he had gone wrong. He had only seen the immediate villain, but ignored the longer-term goal. He was only driven by hatred, but forgot that the core of the mission was to protect more people. I'm sorry. Tang Chen's voice was hoarse. I won't do it again next time. I'll follow the rules. Hill nodded, the disappointment on her face gradually fading, replaced by a hint of relief. It's okay, everyone has impulsive moments. What's important is to realize it in time. Let's go, the mission isn't over yet. We need to go back and interrogate that intelligence officer to see what clues we can get. The two walked back to the warehouse side by side, not speaking on the way. Tang Chen looked at Hill's back. Her steps were firm, yet carried a subtle weariness. He knew that Hill's rules weren't cold-blooded, but a path of protection forged from experiencing too much life and death, meant to ensure fewer people lost loved ones, and fewer people suffered. It was already past midnight when they returned to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. The intelligence officer was taken to the interrogation room. Hill went to report on the mission, and Tang Chen sat alone by the window in the lounge, looking out at the night sky. The moonlight was faint, and there were few stars, much like his current mood, heavy yet with a touch of clarity. He touched the peace charm in his inner pocket, thinking of his adoptive parents' smiles, and of the woman holding her child. He finally understood that his power was not for revenge, but for protection, to allow ordinary people like his adoptive parents and that woman to live peacefully, without fear of being kidnapped, without fear of being threatened. Hill is right, Tang Chen whispered to himself. True strength isn't about how many bad guys you kill, but about how many good people you protect. He stood up and went to the training room, beginning to practice energy control. This time, he didn't use brute force, but focused on precision, controlling energy to form a tiny beam of light at his fingertips, hitting the red dot on the bullseye. With each hit, his gaze grew a little firmer. He knew he still had much to learn, not only the control of power but also the restraint of reason, and the responsibility behind SHIELD's rules. But he was no longer lost, because he understood his goal, to use his power, combined with SHIELD's rules and the help of his teammates, to protect the people he wanted to protect, to thwart the conspiracies of Hydra and the House of Zod, and to restore peace to Earth. The training room lights stayed on all night, illuminating Tang Chen's determined figure. The sky outside gradually brightened with the first hint of dawn. A new day had begun, signifying new challenges ahead, but Tang Chen was no longer as impulsive as before. Instead, he carried a newfound steadiness and responsibility. He was slowly transforming from an alien orphan, driven by hatred, into a true shield ally, a responsible guardian. Outside the ground floor storage area of warehouse number 3, a hidden passage was concealed behind stacks of weapon crates, the entrance covered by a rusty iron plate. A faint, sweet, metallic smell, mixed with an irritating ozone-like odor, seeped from the gaps around the plate, distinctly different from the gunpowder smell commonly associated with Hydra. Tang Chen's Kryptonian sense of smell instantly detected the anomaly. He pressed his hand against the iron plate, feeling a subtle vibration at his fingertips, as if something alive was moving deep within the passage. Hill, I've found an anomalous passage. There are energy fluctuations from an unknown life form, Tang Chen whispered into his comms, simultaneously signaling 2 agents to secure the perimeter. The iron plate weighed over 200 kilograms, requiring tools for an ordinary person to move, but with a slight exertion of force, he pried it open, revealing a narrow, damp staircase that descended into darkness. The sweet, metallic smell in the passage intensified. The walls were covered in green slime, emitting a faint bioluminescence that illuminated scratches on the steps, as if some creature had clawed them, deep and chaotic, indicating immense destructive power. Tang Chen led the way, the beam of his tactical flashlight sweeping ahead, illuminating an iron door at the end of the passage. Thick steel rebar was welded onto the door, but 2 of the bars had been forcibly bent, and dim light could be seen seeping through the gaps. Someone's inside, an agent suddenly shouted. The flashlight beam penetrating the door crack revealed a man in a white lab coat, huddled in a corner, his hands tied behind his back and his mouth taped shut. It was Dr. Allen, a SHIELD biological researcher who had been missing for 3 days. He had disappeared 3 days prior while tracking a Kree signal, and was now found imprisoned here by Hydra. Dr. Allen. Tang Chen was about to push the door open when he suddenly heard a loud bang from deeper within the passage, followed by the screech of twisting steel. The iron door was violently forced open from the inside, and a massive force surged out. Tang Chen instinctively sidestepped, only to see a creature over 2 meters tall burst forth. It had gray skin covered in fine scales, a triangular head, crimson compound eyes, thick limbs, and sharp claws glinting coldly at its fingertips. It was a Kree scout. The Kree scout's right foreclaw wore a metal shackle, the other end of the chain still attached to a steel pillar deeper in the passage, clearly indicating it had just broken free. Upon seeing Tang Chen and the others, its crimson compound eyes instantly locked onto Dr. Allen in the corner, emitting a threatening hiss. Ignoring the drag of the shackle, it lunged towards the doctor. The doctor trembled with fear, but being bound, he was unable to move, and was about to be clawed. Stop it, Hill's voice came through the comms. She was bringing her team down from the 2nd floor, still dozens of meters from the passage, too far to provide immediate support. The 2 agents immediately opened fire. The bullets struck the Kree scout's scales, but ricocheted off with a crisp clang. Kree scales could withstand ordinary bullets, conventional weapons were ineffective against it. Enraged, the scout turned and swiped a claw, sending one agent flying to hit the wall and fall unconscious. The other agent retreated in fear, dropping his gun. Tang Chen's heart leapt into his throat. He knew his strength could subdue the creature, but the passage was narrow, and a direct confrontation could easily injure Dr. Allen. Brute force to break the chain was also out of the question. The other end of the chain was attached to a steel pillar, and pulling it forcefully would only make the scout more berserk. The only way was to use heat vision to sever the shackle, preventing it from reaching the doctor. But he dared not try it lightly. His previous heat vision blasts were thick beams, immensely powerful but difficult to control. A misfire could not only injure the doctor but also cause the passage to collapse. However, there was no time to hesitate now. The Kree scout had already broken half of its chain, its claws less than a meter from the doctor, its crimson compound eyes blazing with murderous intent. Focus, control the energy, precise strike, Tang Chen silently recited Hill's words. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The Kryptonian energy within him began to surge, flowing with his blood and concentrating in his eyes. The warm sensation gradually intensified, but it didn't explode out of control as before. He imagined the energy compressing and condensing in his eyes, transforming into 2 slender beams, precisely striking the connection point of the shackle. Buzz. 2 dark red rays shot from Tang Chen's eyes, more than 10 times finer than his previous beams, like 2 precise lasers. They bypassed the Kree scout's skin and hit the shackle's clasp exactly. The clasp instantly melted, emitting a wisp of smoke as it fell to the ground. The scout, freed from its restraint, paused for a moment, clearly not expecting the shackle to suddenly break, and its charge faltered. It was this momentary pause that allowed Tang Chen to rush forward. He dodged the scout's claws, grabbed its arms with both hands, and twisted. Though the Kree's strength was formidable, it was far inferior to a Kryptonian's. The scout was forcibly pinned against the wall, unable to move. It struggled frantically, its claws tearing several gashes in Tang Chen's tactical suit, but unable to wound his skin. "Calm down. We're not your enemies," Tang Chen shouted at the scout, simultaneously noticing a bleeding wound on the scales of its neck, clearly caused by Hydra's abuse. He eased his grip, his tone as gentle as possible. "We're here to save you. Hydra has been dealt with. You're safe." The scout's struggles gradually lessened. Its crimson compound eyes stared at Tang Chen, seemingly assessing whether his words were trustworthy. Just then, Hill arrived with her team. Seeing the scene before her, especially the melted shackle on the ground and the lingering red glow in Tang Chen's eyes, her expression was filled with surprise. "Dr. Allen, are you all right?" Hill first had someone untie Dr. Allen, then walked over to Tang Chen, looking at the subdued Kree scout. "This is a Kree Empire scout. How did Hydra capture it?" "They wanted to study Kree genes to enhance their soldiers," Dr. Allen said, rubbing his numb wrists, his voice tinged with lingering fear. "I tracked its signal here, but Hydra ambushed me, and I was imprisoned here with it. When it broke free just now, it probably thought we were also enemies." Tang Chen slowly released his grip. The Kree scout did not attack again, merely watching the surrounding agents warily, its neck wound still seeping blood. Hill signaled a medic to treat the wound, then walked in front of Tang Chen, her gaze on his eyes, her voice filled with incredulous surprise. "Your heat vision just now, did you intentionally control it like that?" "Yes," Tang Chen nodded, rubbing his slightly sore eyes. "The passage was too narrow, and I was afraid of hurting the doctor, so I tried to compress the energy. I didn't expect it to actually work." Hill picked up the melted shackle from the ground. The cut at the clasp was clean and smooth, clearly caused by a precise energy strike. She looked up at Tang Chen, the surprise in her eyes gradually turning to approval. "You're progressing faster than I imagined. Before, you could only unleash heat vision with brute force. Now you can precisely control the energy's intensity and form. This isn't just an improvement in ability, but also a growth in rationality." Tang Chen's cheeks flushed slightly, and a sense of accomplishment welled up in his heart. He recalled the impulsiveness during the last cleanup mission and what Hill had said about true power being the rationality to control strength. He finally understood that his growth was not just about increasing his power, but also about mastering it, judging situations, and understanding the essence of protection. "It seems to understand us," an agent suddenly said. Everyone looked to see the Kree scout pointing its claws towards the depths of the passage, making hissing sounds. The crimson in its compound eyes gradually faded, replaced by a hint of urgency. "It might want to lead us somewhere," Tang Chen guessed. He walked over to the scout, trying to keep his tone gentle. "Do you want to take us into the depths of the passage?" "What's there?" The scout nodded, then turned and walked towards the depths of the passage. Its steps were no longer as frantic as before, but carried a hint of caution. Tang Chen and Hill exchanged glances, signaling for everyone to follow. Since Hydra could capture a Kree scout, there might be other secrets deep within the passage, perhaps even clues related to the House of Zod. Deep inside the passage was a spacious laboratory, filled with Hydra's experimental equipment. Several petri dishes contained green liquid, with Kree scales and tissue samples floating in them. A computer in the corner was still running, displaying analysis data of Kree genes on its screen. Next to it was a report titled, Kree Human Gene Fusion Project. Clearly, Hydra not only wanted to study Kree genes but also intended to fuse them with human genes to create super soldiers. "This data is very important to S.H.I.E.L.D., Hill said, instructing agents to copy the computer's data. Then she walked to a sealed petri dish containing a small energy device emitting a faint blue light. "This is a Kree energy core. Hydra might want to use it to modify weapons." Tang Chen's gaze fell on a metal platform in the center of the laboratory. It was engraved with Kryptonian patterns similar to the 084 metal box, only rougher, obviously copied by Hydra. He reached out and touched the patterns, suddenly feeling a familiar energy fluctuation, not Kree, but from the House of Zod. "Hill, there are residual energies from the House of Zod here." Tang Chen's voice became serious. Hydra is not only researching Kree genes but also imitating Kryptonian technology, very likely having received technical support from the House of Zod. Hill immediately had someone test the energy residue on the metal platform, and the results showed complete consistency with the energy signatures of Zod's weapons found earlier at the Hydra outpost. Her expression instantly turned grave. It seems Hydra's cooperation with the House of Zod is deeper than we imagined. They are not only trading weapons but also jointly researching alien technology, possibly with the aim of creating a super army fused with Kree and Kryptonian genes. Just then, the Kree scout suddenly let out a hissing, warning sound, pointing to the laboratory's ventilation shaft. Tang Chen's Kryptonian hearing immediately picked up footsteps from outside, at least 5 people, approaching the laboratory. Their steps were heavy, accompanied by the metallic clanking of weapons. "It's Hydra reinforcements," an agent shouted, immediately raising their gun towards the door. Tang Chen signaled for everyone to take cover, then walked to the ventilation shaft. Through the gaps, he saw 5 Hydra agents in black combat suits, carrying heavy machine guns, clearly rushing in as reinforcements after receiving a message. He took a deep breath, concentrating again. This time, precise control wasn't needed, but rapid suppression. Whoosh! 2 thick heat vision beams shot from his eyes, instantly piercing the ventilation shaft's grates and striking the machine guns of the 2 agents at the front. The barrels of the machine guns instantly melted, and scalding molten metal splashed onto the agents, causing a commotion. Tang Chen seized the opportunity to rush out of the laboratory, grabbing the arms of the remaining 3 agents and flinging them forcefully. The 3 crashed into each other and passed out. The entire process took less than 10 seconds, and the reinforcing Hydra agents were all subdued. Hill looked at the unconscious agents on the ground, then at Tang Chen, her eyes full of admiration. "You've completely mastered the use of heat vision, able to flexibly switch the intensity of your abilities according to the situation." Tang Chen smiled, saying nothing. He knew this was not just a mastery of skill but also a change in mindset, from impulsiveness driven by hatred to rationality controlled for protection. He finally understood the true meaning of power. After clearing out the laboratory's data and equipment, everyone returned to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters with the Kree Scout and Dr. Allen. On the way, the Kree Scout suddenly patted Tang Chen's shoulder with its claw, then pointed to its neck wound, and then to him, seemingly expressing gratitude. Tang Chen was stunned for a moment, then smiled, gently patting its arm. "No need to thank me, we were both harmed by Hydra, we should help each other." Hill watched this scene, a gratified smile on her lips. She knew that Tang Chen was no longer the alien orphan who needed protection, but had grown into a capable, rational, and warm guardian. He could not only wield immense power but also understand the meaning of life, which was more important than any ability. When they returned to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Fury was already waiting in the briefing room. Seeing the Kree Scout and the captured experimental data, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. When he heard about Tang Chen's precise control of heat vision to save Dr. Allen, he even showed a rare smile. "Very good, Tang Chen, you have proven that you not only possess great power but also the wisdom to control it. This Kree genetic data and the residual Zod family technology are crucial for us to thwart their conspiracy." Tang Chen stood in the center of the briefing room, looking at the sunlight outside the window, his heart filled with peace and determination. He recalled the loss of control the first time he used heat vision, the embarrassment of his first flight, and the impulsiveness of his first mission. Those experiences were all steps in his growth, transforming him from a bewildered alien youth into a reliable ally of S.H.I.E.L.D. Next, based on this data, we need to formulate a counter-plan against the cooperation between Hydra and the House of Zod, Fury said, opening a holographic projection and bringing up a world map. "Tang Chen, your precise heat vision control will play a crucial role in the upcoming missions. We need you to cooperate with Natasha and Hawkeye to destroy Hydra's gene laboratories." "I have no problem with that." Tang Chen's voice was firm, without the slightest hesitation. He knew that new challenges were coming, but he was no longer afraid, because he had mastered his power, understood his responsibility, and had trustworthy teammates by his side. The lights in the briefing room illuminated Tang Chen's figure, and also the determination in his eyes. He knew that his journey was far from over, and more alien threats and conspiracies awaited him in the future, but he was ready, to protect the innocent with precise power, to unravel conspiracies with a rational mind, and to guard those he loved with a warm heart, becoming the true, Kryptonian light of S.H.I.E.L.D. Chapter 71. In the interrogation room of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Triskelion headquarters, The walls were made of sound-absorbing dark gray alloy, and the lighting was dimmed to the lowest setting, leaving only a spotlight directly on the metal chair in the center of the room. The Kree scout was secured to the chair, its limbs bound by specially made vibranium restraints that even its strength couldn't break free from. The wound on its neck had been bandaged, and its crimson compound eyes glowed with vigilance in the dim light, occasionally emitting a low hiss as it tried to struggle free. Tang Chen stood behind the one-way glass, watching the Kree in the interrogation room, his fingers unconsciously rubbing the 084 metal box in his pocket. Ever since discovering the residual energy of the House of Zod in the Hydra laboratory, he had been restless. As a well-known military civilization in the universe, the Kree might know more clues about Kryptonian ruins, which was why Fury decided to let him participate in the interrogation. "Are you ready? The translator has been debugged and can convert Kree to English in real time," Hill said, walking over with a tablet displaying the Kree language database. "Its emotions are still unstable. We need to proceed gradually, starting with questions about its mission, then slowly guiding it to the topics of Krypton and Mars." Tang Chen nodded, taking a deep breath. He knew this interrogation not only concerned Hydra's cooperation with the House of Zod but also might touch upon his deepest, most secret desire, to rebuild Krypton. Jor-El's holographic message had mentioned finding a new home for Krypton, and the Codex occasionally projected blurry planetary images into his mind, one red planet constantly reappearing. He guessed it might be Mars. The interrogation room door opened, and Fury and the interrogator walked in. Fury sat in the chair opposite the Kree, placing a small translator on the table. "We know you are a Kree Empire scout, serial number C-73, part of the 3rd Reconnaissance Fleet. Don't play dumb. We've already found your mission records in HYDRA's computers." The Kree's compound eyes narrowed slightly, clearly not expecting S.H.I.E.L.D. to have its identity information. It remained silent for a few seconds, then finally let out a hiss, which the translator immediately converted into clear English. "What do you want to know?" "I will not reveal Kree Empire military secrets." "We're not interested in your military secrets." Fury's tone was calm but carried an undeniable pressure. "We want to know why the Kree Empire is searching for ancient civilization ruins. Especially Kryptonian ruins." At the mention of the words, Krypton, the Kree's body visibly stiffened. Its claws gripped the armrest of the chair tightly, leaving deep scratches on the metal. Krypton was an ancient civilization in the universe, their genetic engineering and energy technology were very advanced. The Kree Empire is indeed searching for their ruins to acquire technology and enhance military strength. Tang Chen's heart skipped a beat, and he unconsciously took a step closer. The reflection on the one-way glass prevented the Kree from seeing him, but it could feel the faint fluctuations of Kryptonian energy on him. Its compound eyes turned towards the glass, with a hint of vigilance. "Do you have a Kryptonian here?" "That's not for you to ask," Fury interrupted it, pressing on. "Besides Krypton, what other civilizations, ruins is the Kree Empire searching for? Have there been any related discoveries on Mars?" The Kree hesitated for a long time, seemingly weighing the pros and cons. Finally, it relented. "Mars is one of the oldest cradles of civilization in the universe, with traces of intelligent life activity dating back billions of years. Kree Empire probes have discovered ancient architectural ruins at the Martian poles, as well as remnants of energy modification equipment. Someone once tried to terraform Mars to make it habitable, but for some unknown reason, it failed." Terraforming. Tang Chen's eyes lit up instantly. He recalled the image of the red planet projected by the Codex, which indeed showed blurry architectural outlines and energy fluctuations. Who did the terraforming? Was it Kryptonians? His voice came through the interrogation room microphone. Upon hearing it, a hint of surprise flashed in the Kree's compound eyes. "You are a Kryptonian. Only Kryptonians would be interested in the terraforming ruins of Mars." "Yes, the energy residues discovered by the probes are highly similar to Kryptonian technology. It should have been ancient Kryptonians who tried to use Mars as a colony, but later abandoned it for some reason." This news was like a bolt of lightning, illuminating Tang Chen's heart. He had always thought that rebuilding Krypton was just a distant dream, an unrealizable last wish, but he never expected that Mars not only had Kryptonian ruins but also the foundation for terraforming. If he could find those ancient terraforming devices and combine them with the technological data in the Codex, perhaps he could truly transform Mars into a habitable planet, allowing Kryptonian civilization to be reborn on Mars. What is the current environment on Mars? Can it still be terraformed? Tang Chen's voice was tinged with urgency, pressing for the key questions. The Kree looked in the direction of the microphone, seemingly able to see Tang Chen's figure through the one-way glass. The current environment on Mars is harsh, with a thin atmosphere, extremely low surface temperatures, and strong radiation. But the foundation is still there. The polar ice caps store vast amounts of water resources, and there are rich minerals beneath the crust. As long as the ancient terraforming equipment can be repaired and enough energy injected, it is theoretically possible to restore Mars to a habitable environment. It paused, its tone carrying a hint of warning, but the Kree Empire will not let you succeed. We have already reported the coordinates of the Martian ruins to Imperial headquarters, and it won't be long before a fleet is dispatched to acquire the terraforming technology. Krypton has been destroyed, and you should not try to rebuild it. That will only lead to greater disaster. That's not for you to worry about. Fury stood up, signaling the end of the interrogation. Take it away, keep it under strict guard, and allow no one to approach it. 2 agents walked into the interrogation room, unbound the Kree, and escorted it out. Only Fury and the interrogator remained in the room. Fury looked in the direction of the one-way glass and spoke into the microphone. Tang Chen, come in. Tang Chen pushed open the door and walked into the interrogation room, his excitement still not having subsided. He walked up to Fury, his eyes filled with determination. Director Fury, I want to apply to go to Mars for an investigation, to search for ancient Kryptonian ruins and terraforming equipment. If those devices can be repaired, it would not only find a new colony for Earth but also fulfill my father's last wish, allowing Kryptonian civilization to continue peacefully. Fury didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to the window and looked at the sky outside. After a long time, he turned around, his eyes filled with complex emotions. Tang Chen, I understand how you feel, but a Mars expedition is no small matter. The Kree Empire has already set its sights on it, and the House of Zod is also looking for Kryptonian ruins. Once you go to Mars, it will inevitably trigger a 3-way conflict, and it might even lead to an interstellar war, dragging Earth into it, which is something I don't want to see. I won't let Earth fall into danger. Tang Chen's tone was firm. I only want to rebuild Krypton peacefully, without resorting to force, and certainly without clashing with the Kree Empire. Moreover, mastering Mars' terraforming technology would also benefit Earth. As the population grows and the environment deteriorates, Earth will eventually be overwhelmed. Mars would be the best alternative. Hill also entered the interrogation room, holding a report which she handed to Fury. According to satellite detection, there are indeed abnormal energy fluctuations at Mars poles, consistent with the characteristics of the terraforming equipment described by the Kree. Furthermore, we found communication records from the House of Zod in Hydra's computers. They are also searching for Kryptonian ruins on Mars, with the goal of acquiring terraforming technology, establishing military bases, and dominating the entire solar system. Zod is also looking. Fury's brows furrowed even deeper. In that case, we absolutely cannot let Mars technology fall into anyone's hands. Tang Chen, your idea is excellent, but the timing isn't right yet. We need to first resolve the threats from Hydra and the House of Zod, then unite with other civilizations and negotiate with the Kree Empire before we can safely conduct a Mars expedition. Tang Chen felt a bit disappointed, but he also understood Fury's concerns. The threat from the House of Zod hadn't been resolved, and the Kree Empire was eyeing them covetously. Going to Mars now would indeed be too risky, not only endangering himself but also potentially dragging Earth into an interstellar conflict. He took a deep breath, suppressed his inner urgency, and nodded, I understand. I will cooperate with S.H.I.E.L.D. to resolve the current threats first. When the time is right, we can then consider Mars. Fury looked at him, a hint of relief in his eyes. Very good, you are more rational than I imagined. Remember, rebuilding Krypton is not an overnight task, it requires patience and preparation. S.H.I.E.L.D. will help you gather relevant data on Mars and analyze the feasibility of terraforming technology. Once the threats from Zod and the Kree are resolved, we will fully support your plan. After leaving the interrogation room, Tang Chen went alone to the roof of the training room. The night sky was dark, with few stars, only Mars twinkling with a faint red light in the southeast, like a distant star of hope. He took out the 084 metal box and held it against his chest, feeling its resonance with his genes. The codex seemed to also sense his determination. The Kryptonian patterns on its surface lit up with a soft blue light, projecting a holographic image of Mars, clearly marking the location of the ruins and the structure of the terraforming equipment. Dad, I've found my direction, Tang Chen whispered towards Mars. Mars will be Krypton's new home. I will definitely fulfill your last wish, allowing Kryptonian civilization to continue peacefully and not repeat past mistakes. The night wind brushed against his cheek, carrying a hint of coolness, yet it couldn't quell the excitement in his heart. He knew that there was still a long way to go to achieve this dream, to resolve the threat from the House of Zod, to negotiate with the Kree Empire, to repair the ancient terraforming equipment. Every step was full of challenges and dangers. But he was no longer as lost as before, because he had a clear goal, specific coordinates, Shield's support, and the guidance of the Codex. Tang Chen, Hill's voice came from behind him. She held a cup of hot coffee and handed it to Tang Chen. Still thinking about Mars. Tang Chen took the coffee. The warm liquid slid down his throat, calming him slightly. Yes, I'm thinking about those ancient terraforming devices and the threat of the Kree Empire. Can we really get the technology before them? As long as we are fast enough and united enough, Hill's tone was firm. Director Fury has already ordered the technical department to analyze the Martian ruin data and simultaneously strengthen surveillance of the House of Zod. Once they make a move, we will act immediately. Moreover, Tony Stark has also expressed willingness to provide technical support to help us repair the terraforming equipment. He is very interested in a Mars colony and said he wants to build a Stark Industries branch there. Tang Chen smiled, and the worries in his heart gradually dissipated. He thought of Tony's arrogant yet reliable demeanor, Natasha's calmness, Hill's steadfastness, Fury's foresight, and his adoptive parents' support. He wasn't fighting alone. With so many people helping him, he would surely overcome all difficulties and achieve his dream of rebuilding Krypton. Thank you, Hill. Tang Chen's voice was full of sincerity. Without your support, I might never have found the direction to achieve my dream. Don't thank me, this is also for Earth's future. Hill looked towards Mars, her eyes full of anticipation. Perhaps in the near future, we will truly see Mars become a habitable planet, and see Kryptonian civilization and Earth civilization coexist peacefully. That would be the most beautiful sight in the universe. The two stood side by side on the rooftop, looking at Mars in the southeast, silent yet full of hope. The night wind blew, carrying the mysterious aura of the universe, as if calling them to explore unknown realms and achieve great dreams. Tang Chen gripped the 084 metal box in his hand, feeling its warmth and resonance. He knew that the path to rebuilding Krypton was still long, full of unknown challenges and dangers, but he was ready to use his power to protect Earth, to use the technology of the Codex to terraform Mars, to continue Kryptonian civilization peacefully, to become a bridge connecting Earth and New Krypton, to become the true Kryptonian light of S.H.I.E.L.D. Back in the lounge, Tang Chen opened his tablet and brought up the satellite map of Mars, marking the locations of the poles with red circles. That was where the Kree had mentioned the ruins were, and it was also the starting point of his dream. He took out a pen and wrote a line next to the map: New Krypton, Mars, future home. Under the light, the handwriting was clear and firm, like a seed, taking root and sprouting in his heart, waiting for the day it would blossom and bear fruit. He knew that as long as he didn't give up, as long as he persevered, this dream would one day come true, and Kryptonian civilization would be reborn on Mars, shining brightly in the universe alongside Earth's civilization. In the penthouse lounge of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Triskelion headquarters, the night wind, carrying the city's chill, blew in through the open floor-to-ceiling windows, rippling the whiskey glass on the table. Tang Chen leaned back on the sofa, an untouched glass of soda water held between his fingers. The Kryptonian metabolism prevented him from drinking alcohol. He could only watch as Natasha across from him downed glass after glass of the amber liquid, her eyes betraying a fatigue hard to conceal after the mission. The recently concluded raid on the Hydra gene laboratory had been more difficult than anticipated. The modified soldiers in the lab possessed Kree scales and rudimentary Kryptonian strength. Although they ultimately succeeded in destroying the equipment and rescuing the test subjects, S.H.I.E.L.D. paid the price with 3 injured agents. Tang Chen's tactical suit still bore dried bloodstains from when he was scratched by a modified soldier's claws while covering Natasha. The wound had already healed, leaving only a faint mark. This is the first time I've seen you drink so much. Tang Chen broke the silence, looking at Natasha's third empty glass, a hint of worry in his tone. Normally, she was always calm and composed, never indulging like this, even in the most dangerous missions. It was as if she was using alcohol to numb some inexpressible emotion. Natasha looked up, her eyes flushed from the alcohol, yet her usually sharp gaze was now much softer, as if veiled by a mist. She didn't answer, simply picked up the bottle and poured herself another drink. The liquid hit the glass with a soft, clink, exceptionally clear in the quiet lounge. Do you know, the first time I killed someone, I was only 10, Natasha suddenly spoke, her voice very soft, as if she were telling someone else's story. At the Red Room, they put a gun in my hand and pointed it at a girl who refused to obey, saying, either you kill her, or we both die. Tang Chen's body instantly stiffened. He had heard the name, Red Room. It was mentioned in SHIELD files as a former Soviet secret agent training facility, infamous for its brutal training and mind control, producing agents who were nothing short of killing machines. Natasha was one of the few who managed to escape and reclaim herself. But he had never imagined her past would be so heavy. I pulled the trigger. Natasha's fingers gripped the wine glass tightly, her knuckles white, her nails almost digging into the glass. When that girl fell, her eyes were still open, filled with terror. The Red Room instructors said I had talent, but I knew I just wanted to survive. There, kindness and weakness were fatal. Her voice held an almost imperceptible tremble, and the mist in her eyes finally condensed into tears, rolling down her cheeks and dripping into the wine glass, creating tiny ripples. This was the first time Tang Chen had seen Natasha cry. This woman who always presented herself as strong, now shed all pretense, revealing her most vulnerable side. Tang Chen didn't speak, simply handed her a tissue silently. He knew that any words of comfort at this moment would seem pale and powerless. She didn't need sympathy, but rather someone to listen, someone who wouldn't judge her past. Natasha took the tissue and wiped her tears, but didn't stop talking. They brainwashed us, erased our memories, told us we had no past, no name, only missions. I once thought I was just a machine, until I met Hawkeye. He was supposed to kill me, but he ultimately chose to spare my life, giving me a chance to escape the Red Room and join SHIELD. She paused, looking into Tang Chen's eyes, a hint of self-deprecation in her tone, but some things can't be erased. Every time I close my eyes, I see that girl's eyes, I see the cold training equipment in the Red Room, I see my hand pulling the trigger. I always feel that deep down, I'm still that killing machine, and I can never wash away the smell of blood. Tang Chen's heart felt a pang, and he inexplicably recalled his first day crossing into this world, waking up in an alley in Chinatown, his mind filled with memories that weren't his own, neither Tang Chen's, nor Kal-El's, but a crisis list from another world. He, too, had once been as lost as Natasha, unsure of who he was, where he belonged, or what he should do. I'm actually not from this world, Tang Chen suddenly spoke, his voice carrying a hint of hesitation, yet exceptionally firm. At least, my consciousness isn't. Natasha's drinking motion instantly froze. She looked up, the vulnerability in her eyes replaced by surprise. What do you mean? I come from another Earth, a world without superpowers, without alien civilizations, only ordinary life. Tang Chen took a deep breath, revealing the secret hidden deepest in his heart. I don't know why I came here. When I woke up, I had become Tang Chen, and I had merged with Kal-El's genes and memories, and my mind also held a list of future crises in this world. He looked at Natasha's surprised eyes and continued. I used to be very scared, afraid of being seen as a monster, afraid of not finding my place. It wasn't until I was adopted by my foster parents and felt the warmth of a home that I slowly accepted this identity. But I always feel like a transient, belonging neither to my original world nor entirely to this one, always carrying traces that aren't my own, just as you said. Silence fell in the lounge. Outside the window, the city lights sparkled, and the neon glow shone through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the complex emotions on their faces, surprise, understanding, and a strange sense of resonance. They were both outsiders, both carrying a past they didn't want to revisit, both harboring secrets they couldn't share with others, like two planets rotating alone in the dark, finally finding each other's orbit. So, we're both outsiders, Natasha suddenly laughed, her first genuine smile of the evening, filled with relief and ease. I thought I was the only one living in the shadow of the past, but it turns out you also carry memories that aren't your own. But we're both trying to live, aren't we? Tang Chen also smiled. You escaped the Red Room, chose to use your abilities to protect others, and make up for past regrets. I accepted this identity, chose to protect my adoptive parents, and fulfilled Kal-El's last wish. Perhaps the past cannot be changed, but we can choose who we become in the future. Natasha looked into Tang Chen's eyes, which held no pity, no judgment, only understanding and steadfastness, like a beam of light illuminating the darkest corners of her heart. She suddenly felt that the past and guilt that had troubled her for years no longer seemed so unbearable. At least, someone understood her pain and could share those unspeakable secrets with her. Thank you. Natasha's voice was a little hoarse, yet exceptionally sincere. This is the first time I've ever told anyone about the Red Room. I always felt those memories were too dirty, too afraid to speak of them, and didn't want to. This is also the first time I've told anyone about the secret of my transmigration. Tang Chen's voice was full of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Before, I was afraid of being seen as crazy, afraid of being treated as a research subject by S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, I feel it's not so scary to say it. Natasha picked up the bottle, poured a little whiskey into Tang Chen's soda water, and said with a smile, although you can't drink, a little bit for the sake of it, consider it our sharing secrets ceremony. Tang Chen didn't refuse, picked up his glass, and lightly clinked it against Natasha's. The crisp sound of glass colliding seemed to announce the beginning of a new kind of relationship. He took a sip. The spicy taste of alcohol made him frown, but he felt inexplicably warm. Actually, you don't need to feel guilty, Tang Chen looked at Natasha and said earnestly. The Red Room's mistakes are not your mistakes. You have already made amends in your own way. Those you protected, those disasters you prevented, are all proof of your kindness. You are not a killing machine. You are Natasha Romanoff, you are Black Widow, you are S.H.I.E.L.D.'s most reliable agent, and you are my friend. Natasha's eyes reddened again, but no tears fell. Instead, she nodded vigorously. Thank you, Tang Chen. You are also my first true friend at S.H.I.E.L.D. Outside the window, the night deepened, and the city's clamor gradually subsided, leaving only the soft music in the lounge and their occasional conversations. They talked about interesting anecdotes from missions, about their adoptive parents nagging, about Tony Stark's arrogance, about Fury's mystery, but they never brought up those heavy pasts again. Some secrets, once shared, are no longer a burden but a bond connecting them. Tang Chen looked at Natasha's relaxed smile, his heart full of warmth. He knew that their relationship had surpassed that of ordinary comrades in arms, gaining a closeness of mutual appreciation and unspoken understanding. They both carried the shadows of the past, yet they were willing to bravely face the future for each other and for those they protected. It's getting late. We have training tomorrow, so get some rest. Tang Chen stood up, preparing to leave. Natasha nodded, also standing up, and looking at his retreating back, suddenly said, Tang Chen, if you ever need help in the future, whether it's with a mission or about the secret of your identity, you can always come to me. I'll always be on your side. Tang Chen turned back and smiled at her. You too. If the shadow of the Red Room ever troubles you again, I can always have a drink with you. Of course, I'll have soda water, and you'll have whiskey. Natasha smiled, watching Tang Chen's retreating figure, the heaviness and confusion in her heart gradually dissipating, replaced by an unprecedented sense of ease and determination. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the starry sky outside, and remembered Tang Chen saying, choose the future. She suddenly felt that those past shadows might never disappear, but they would no longer be shackles binding her, but rather the motivation to cherish the present and protect the future. Back in his own lounge, Tang Chen lay on the bed, holding the 084 metal box in his hand, feeling its temperature. He thought of Natasha's tears, her smile, and the moment they shared their secrets, his heart filled with peace and warmth. He knew that in this world full of danger and secrets, he was no longer alone. He had the love of his adoptive parents, the support of S.H.I.E.L.D., and friends like Natasha. That was enough. The moonlight outside the window shone through the glass, casting a soft glow on his face. Tang Chen closed his eyes, a slight smile on his lips, and gradually drifted off to sleep. In his dream, there were no shadows of the Red Room, no confusion of transmigration, only the image of him fighting side by side with Natasha, only the warm smiles of his adoptive parents, only that hopeful land on Mars belonging to New Krypton. The night wind blew, carrying the scent of the city, and also that quietly growing closeness and tacit understanding between the two, transcending comradeship, flowing silently in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s headquarters in the quiet night. In the data analysis room of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Triskelion headquarters, the morning sun streamed through the blinds, casting long, slender streaks of light on the floor. John Garrett sat at a desk by the window, his fingers seemingly casually tapping on the keyboard, while the screen displayed routine satellite monitoring data. However, his gaze occasionally drifted towards Hill's office diagonally across from him. The lights there had just come on, meaning she had already begun processing today's confidential documents, which very likely included the latest ability report on the Kryptonian teenager. As a senior SHIELD agent, Garrett had long grown accustomed to this double life. On the surface, he was an experienced data analysis expert, having participated in countless counterterrorism missions, and earning Fury's trust. Secretly, he was the clairvoyant, a Hydra mole embedded in the core of SHIELD, having been undercover for 15 years, transmitting countless confidential intelligence and serving as Alexander Pierce's most effective pawn. Garrett, have you finished organizing yesterday's New York Harbor monitoring data? Director Fury needs it for the 10 a.m. regular meeting. His colleague Mark walked over with a cup of coffee, patting him on the shoulder, his tone relaxed. Almost done, just one last abnormal signal analysis, I'll be finished in 5 minutes. Garrett looked up, revealing his characteristic smile. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes made him appear especially friendly, completely masking his hidden cunning. He watched Mark leave, his fingers rapidly switching interfaces on the keyboard, and the screen instantly changed from satellite data to SHIELD's internal encrypted network login page. This was his daily routine. Using a backdoor program he had installed years ago, he could bypass SHIELD's firewall and silently access confidential databases below the mid-level. Today, his objective was clear: Tang Chen's ability data analysis report. Ever since the Kryptonian teenager joined SHIELD, Pierce had been closely monitoring him, repeatedly urging Garrett to obtain detailed data to assess his threat level and potential value. Password correct, connecting to database. A line of green text popped up on the screen. Garrett's breathing subtly slowed, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to respond to any potential security alerts. He knew that Tang Chen's information was classified as B-level confidential, a higher encryption level than ordinary agent files, and even a slight misstep could trigger an automatic tracking program. 30 seconds later, the database was successfully accessed. Garrett quickly browsed the file list and soon found the file labeled Tang Chen Ability Analysis v3.7. The modification time showed it was updated just this morning at 7 o'clock, clearly Hill's latest version. He didn't download it immediately. Instead, he first ran his self-written camouflage program, disguising the download as a system automatic backup, and then clicked Save. The file transfer progress bar slowly advanced, and Garrett's gaze warily swept across the office. His colleagues were all busy with their own work, no one noticing his anomaly. Only the sunlight outside the window moved across the screen, reminding him of the passage of time. His fingers unconsciously traced the scratches on the desktop. Scratches he had accidentally made with a utility knife when he first joined SHIELD 15 years ago, which had now become part of his old employee disguise. Transfer complete, traces cleared. The green prompt appeared again. Garrett immediately closed the database interface and switched back to satellite monitoring data, as if nothing had happened. He picked up his mug and took a sip of cold coffee, masking a hint of excitement within. This report not only contained basic data such as Tang Chen's strength, speed, and heat vision control, but also likely included solar energy absorption efficiency and genetic lock-crack progress, all of which were intelligence Pierce urgently needed. At 9:30 a.m., Garrett entered Hill's office under the pretext of submitting the port monitoring analysis. He placed the paper report on the desk, his gaze quickly scanning Hill's computer screen. The screen displayed Tang Chen's training video, in which Tang Chen was precisely controlling his heat vision to melt a metal wire as thin as a hair, with heat vision accuracy, 0.1 mm, energy consumption, 8% of base value, annotated beside it. Director Hill, the abnormal signal at the port has been confirmed as fishing boat communication interference, no threat. Garrett's tone was respectful, but his eyes were rapidly memorizing the data on the screen. By the way, I heard Tang Chen's abilities have been improving very quickly recently. I just overheard colleagues from the training room discussing it in the hallway. Indeed, significant progress, especially in the precise control of heat vision, which can now be applied in actual combat. Hill didn't think much of it, picking up the report and flipping through it. However, all of this is internal classified information, so don't go asking around. Director Fury places great importance on him and has listed him as a key training target. Understood, I was just curious. Garrett smiled, then turned and left the office. The moment he closed the door, his smile vanished, and his eyes turned cold. Hill's words confirmed his suspicions. Tang Chen's abilities had reached combat level and he was heavily protected by Fury, which was both a threat and a huge temptation for Hydra. Upon returning to his workstation, Garrett did not immediately process the report. Instead, he waited until lunchtime, using the excuse of going out to buy lunch, and left SHIELD headquarters. He drove to an inconspicuous coffee shop in the city center and entered the innermost booth. This was his secret contact point with Pierce. The booth's walls were specially treated to block all signal interception. He took out a miniature USB drive from a hidden compartment in his briefcase and inserted it into a hidden port on the table. This was a secret terminal connected to Hydra's internal network. The screen lit up, displaying, connecting to Project Insight, core server. Garrett took a deep breath and uploaded Tang Chen's ability report, simultaneously attaching his own analysis. Target abilities: super strength 3.8 grams per cc, muscle density, heat vision, accuracy 0.1 mm, energy absorption, yellow sunlight spectrum efficiency 68%, rudimentary flight capability, threat level B+, potential A level, utilization value, extremely high. Kryptonian abilities can be replicated through genetic technology. After the upload was complete, he did not leave, but waited for Pierce's reply. 10 minutes later, a line of text popped up on the screen. Come to the 17th floor of the Triskelion immediately, private meeting. The Triskelion was SHIELD's administrative center and Pierce's office location. Garrett arrived by car, successfully avoiding the post-lunch rush. He took a private elevator directly to the 17th floor. When the elevator doors opened, Pierce's secretary was already waiting at the entrance, saying expressionlessly, "The sir is waiting for you in his office, hand over your phone once you're inside." Garrett nodded, handed his phone to the secretary, and walked into Pierce's office. It was a spacious suite with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of New York. The bookshelves were filled with hardcover books, but not a single one was a genuine book. They all contained hidden communication devices and weapons. Pierce sat behind a massive mahogany desk, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, holding a silver lighter but not lighting a cigarette, his eyes filled with his usual coldness and calculation. "I've reviewed the report, and the analysis is spot on." Pierce's voice was deep, carrying an undeniable authority. "This Tang Chen's potential far exceeds our expectations, especially the precise control of his heat vision and his energy absorption efficiency, which is already close to the Kryptonian warrior data provided by the House of Zod." "Yes, sir." Garrett stood before the desk, his head slightly bowed. Based on Hill's attitude, Fury likely plans to train him to be SHIELD's ultimate weapon to counter Zod and the Kree Empire. "Weapon," Pierce sneered, placing his lighter on the table. "Fury is always so naive, thinking he can control everything. This Tang Chen is both a threat and an opportunity. If we can control him, or obtain his genetic samples, we can replicate Kryptonian abilities and build a super army. The success rate of Project Insight will increase by 30%. He paused, tapping his finger lightly on the tabletop, making a thump sound, as if weighing the pros and cons, but now is not the time to act. Fury protects him closely, and his abilities are still improving. Forcibly capturing him carries too much risk. You continue to lie low, closely monitor his movements, especially his interaction with the Codex, and SHIELD's progress in solar energy research." "Understood." Garrett nodded in response, though he felt a little puzzled. Pierce's tone seemed to hint at an unstated plan. Sure enough, Pierce changed the subject, taking a black encrypted communicator from a drawer and handing it to Garrett. "This is a secret communication channel with the remnants of the House of Zod. You contact them as a Hydra representative, leak some of Tang Chen's ability data, hint that he is a remnant of the House of L, and a common threat, to test if they are willing to cooperate." "Cooperate with the House of Zod?" Garrett's pupils contracted slightly. "Aren't they our potential enemies? Zod's goal is to rebuild Krypton, which might conflict with our Project Insight." "Conflict is for later. The primary goal now is to eliminate Fury and the core forces of S.H.I.E.L.D. Pierce's gaze sharpened. "Tang Chen is Fury's ace card. As long as we can use Zod's hand to get rid of him, or create a rift between him and S.H.I.E.L.D., it will be beneficial to us. Moreover, the House of Zod possesses complete Kryptonian technological data, and cooperation can allow us to obtain more useful information, so why not?" He looked at Garrett, his tone carrying a warning. "Remember, only reveal the threat, not the utilization value, only discuss cooperation intent, do not make concrete commitments. Maintain distance, maintain the initiative, understand?" "Understood, sir." Garrett took the communicator and carefully placed it in his inner pocket, This small device connected the conspiracies of two evil forces and could also determine Tang Chen's fate. Leaving Pierce's office, Garrett took the elevator downstairs. In the elevator, he looked at his reflection in the mirror and suddenly felt a little unfamiliar. 15 years of disguise had made him almost forget his original appearance, leaving only the cold codename, Sight, and Hydra's mission. He touched the communicator in his pocket, feeling its coldness, like a bomb that could explode at any moment. Back at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, the data analysis room was still busy. Garrett sat at his workstation, pretending to process files, but in reality, he was sorting through Pierce's instructions in his mind. He opened the encrypted communicator, entered the preset frequency, and a line of text popped up on the screen. Please enter identity verification code. Garrett entered, Hydra Alpha 73, and a few seconds later, a blurry holographic image appeared on the screen. It was a man in black battle armor, his face obscured by a helmet, only the House of Zod emblem on his forehead visible, his voice processed and metallic cold. I am Cover, adjutant of the House of Zod. Who are you? Why can you access this channel? I am the Hydra representative, Sight. Garrett deliberately lowered his voice, with a faint hoarseness. We have a common enemy, Kal-El, now known as Tang Chen, the last survivor of the House of El. At the mention of Kal-El, the holographic image's body visibly stiffened. What do you want? We will deal with that traitor's descendant ourselves. We don't need outsiders to interfere. I know you've been looking for him, and I know you want the codex. Garrett's tone was seductive, but S.H.I.E.L.D. protects him closely, and your solo operations have a very low success rate. We can provide his location information and ability weaknesses to help you capture him, on the condition that you share the Kryptonian technological data from the codex. The holographic image was silent for a long time, seemingly consulting with others. Garrett waited patiently, his fingers tightly clutching the communicator, cold sweat seeping into his palms. The success or failure of this contact not only concerned Pierce's plan but also whether his undercover identity would be exposed. Finally, Cover's voice sounded again. We can consider cooperation, but we need to verify your sincerity first. Provide Tang Chen's training location and route for tomorrow, and we will send people to test his abilities. If the information is accurate, then we can discuss specific cooperation details. No problem. Garrett immediately agreed. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., he will be in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s solar lamp training room for energy absorption training. The route is from the lounge to the training room, passing through the West Wing corridor, where there is a 3-minute blind spot in the surveillance. Very good, we will send people over. Cover's holographic image flickered. If you dare to play tricks, you will suffer the consequences. The communication ended, and Garrett closed the communicator, letting out a long sigh of relief. He looked at the sunset outside the window, his heart filled with complexity. He knew that an accident was very likely to happen in the training room tomorrow, and Tang Chen would fall into a double trap set by Hydra and the House of Zod. And he, as the instigator of all this, could only continue to pretend, watching the conspiracy unfold step by step. After work, Garrett drove away from S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, not going home but to a secluded safe house. He opened his computer, encrypted the communication records with Cover, and uploaded them to Pierce, then sat in the dark, looking at Tang Chen's photo on the screen. The young man in the photo had a sunny smile and clear eyes, completely unaware that he had become the target of a conspiracy. I'm sorry, kid, Garrett whispered, a hint of imperceptible guilt in his tone. This is not my choice. It's the rules of this world. The strong prey on the weak, survival of the fittest. In the darkness, the computer screen's light reflected on his face, half human guilt, half the coldness of an undercover agent. He knew that from tomorrow onwards, S.H.I.E.L.D. would no longer be peaceful, and the fate of that Kryptonian youth would also completely change, drawn into a more dangerous vortex that he himself had triggered. As night deepened, the lights of New York gradually extinguished, only the computer screen in the safe house remained lit, like a pair of prying eyes, watching the approaching storm. And in the solar lamp training room of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Triskelion headquarters, the equipment was already debugged, awaiting tomorrow's training. On a clear morning at Malibu Beach, sunlight filtered through the thin mist onto the roof of Tony Stark's private factory. The silver-white alloy exterior walls reflected a dazzling light, resembling a colossal steel beast lying dormant by the sea. Inside the factory, robotic arms were assembling components for the Mark series armor on an assembly line, sparks flying and dying out. The air was filled with a mixture of metal and oil, and everything was operating methodically, until a piercing alarm suddenly shattered the tranquility. Beep, 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 red warning lights flashed wildly on the ceiling, and the electronic voice of JARVIS, the AI butler, came over the broadcast. Unknown armed personnel detected. 15 individuals, carrying heavy weaponry, have breached the outer defenses and are advancing towards the core laboratory. In the core laboratory, Tony, wearing a partial Mark IV suit, was holding a welding torch and debugging a reactor interface. Upon hearing the alarm, he immediately dropped his tools and shouted into the communicator, JARVIS, activate defense systems. Notify SHIELD and tell them, old friends, are causing trouble. At this moment, a SHIELD Quinjet was soaring over the coastline. Tang Chen sat in the co-pilot's seat, watching the factory below grow closer, his fingers tightly gripping his tactical gloves. Half an hour earlier, Fury received an urgent distress call from Tony and immediately dispatched him and Natasha to provide support. According to intelligence, the attackers were Obadiah Stane's subordinates, targeting the arc reactor core technology in the factory, and Stane's Ironmonger project had reached its final critical stage. 1 minute until we reach the target location. Natasha's voice was calm and focused as she piloted the jet to a lower altitude, avoiding the factory's anti-aircraft radar. Tony said the core laboratory is on the 3rd underground level. We need to infiltrate through the ventilation ducts to avoid direct confrontation and secure the reactor first. Tang Chen nodded, his gaze sweeping out the window. The factory's perimeter was already in chaos. Several black SUVs had crashed through the gates, and masked armed personnel, carrying assault rifles, stormed inside. Bullets pinged off the alloy walls, and the desperate screams of several security guards came through the communicator, making his heart clench. The Quinjet landed on the helipad behind the factory. Tang Chen and Natasha quickly disembarked, crouching as they rushed into a nearby ventilation duct entrance. The duct was narrow and dark, only allowing one person to crawl through, and it was covered in dust and cobwebs. Tang Chen's Kryptonian vision allowed him to clearly see the path ahead. He gestured for Natasha to follow, then took the lead, pushing forward. After crawling for about 50 meters, faint gunshots and explosions could be heard ahead. Tang Chen slowed down, looking through a gap in the duct. In the workshop below, 5 armed personnel were firing at a robotic arm, attempting to destroy production equipment, while several injured workers lay nearby, huddled in a corner, trembling. I'll deal with them, you continue to the core laboratory. Tang Chen gestured to Natasha, then forcefully kicked open the duct's grill and jumped down. The armed personnel heard the commotion and immediately aimed their guns at him. Don't move. Tang Chen didn't waste words, rushing forward like a leopard. As the armed man on the left pulled the trigger, he grabbed the barrel, twisted it forcefully, instantly deforming the rifle, then punched the man in the chest. The armed man grunted and fell to the ground. The remaining 4 opened fire simultaneously, bullets raining down, but Tang Chen deftly dodged them, using the robotic arms in the workshop as cover. In less than 10 seconds, he subdued all 4, leaving none dead, only unconscious. Thank you, a worker said tremblingly, his eyes full of gratitude. Hide inside and don't come out, I'll let you know when it's safe. Tang Chen pointed to a nearby storage room, then ran towards the elevator leading underground. He could hear the explosions from below growing closer, and the sense of urgency in his heart intensified. Tony's core laboratory not only contained arc reactor technology but also his latest developed armor prototypes. If they were stolen by Stane's men, the consequences would be unimaginable. The moment the elevator doors opened, a wave of heat washed over him. The first underground floor was already engulfed in flames, thick smoke billowing. Several armed personnel were carrying a metal box out, the Stark Industries logo printed on it, clearly containing core technical data. Put down the box, Tang Chen roared, rushing forward. The armed personnel turned to see him and immediately raised their guns to shoot. This time, they weren't ordinary bullets, but armor-piercing rounds with a faint blue glow, traveling twice as fast as regular bullets. They struck the nearby wall, instantly penetrating the thick concrete, leaving a fist-sized hole. Tang Chen's pupils constricted, and he instinctively dodged sideways. The armor-piercing round grazed his shoulder, hitting a fire hydrant behind him, and water instantly gushed out, extinguishing some of the flames. He could feel a burning sting in his shoulder. Although not injured, he could clearly discern the energy fluctuations on the bullets. They were not made with Earth technology, carrying a hint of familiar Kryptonian energy characteristics. How is this possible? Tang Chen's heart sank. He rushed over and grabbed an armed man's wrist, snatching his rifle, and carefully examined the armor-piercing rounds in the magazine. The bullet heads were dark gray, with subtle patterns on the surface, similar to the Zod family weapon patterns he had seen at the Hydra base, only cruder, clearly made from Kryptonian alloy scraps. "Who gave you these bullets?" Tang Chen's voice was cold, and the force in his hand grew stronger. The armed man's wrist made a crunching sound, and he screamed in pain. It was a man wearing a helmet, who said if we helped Mr. Stain get the reactor technology, he would give us these armor-piercing rounds, the armed man stammered in pain. "I don't know who he is, I only know he had a strange emblem on his clothes, like a spread-winged eagle." The Zod family emblem. Tang Chen's heart plummeted. He finally understood that Stain's Ironmonger project was not just an internal power struggle on Earth, it also had the support of the Zod family behind it. They provided Kryptonian alloy to make armor-piercing rounds, helping Stain seize arc reactor technology, and in exchange, Stain likely promised to provide them with Earth's technology and resources, and even help them find the Codex. Tang Chen punched the armed man unconscious, then hoisted the metal box and ran towards the third underground level. Now was not the time for investigation. He had to protect the reactor in the core laboratory first, otherwise, if Stain and the Zod family obtained it together, Earth would face an unprecedented threat. In the core laboratory on the third underground level, Tony, wearing a complete Mark IV armor, was fiercely battling 5 armed personnel. The armor's shoulder plate had already been hit by an armor-piercing round, leaving a dent, and Tony's breathing was somewhat ragged, clearly having sustained the fight for a long time. "You're finally here. 1 minute later, my precious reactor would have been stolen." Tony's tone held a hint of relief upon seeing Tang Chen, but he didn't stop attacking. His palm repulsor fired a blue beam, hitting an armed man's rifle and melting it. Tang Chen put down the metal case and immediately joined the battle. His targets were the armed personnel using armor-piercing rounds, which posed a threat to Tony's armor but couldn't harm him. He rushed over, grabbed an armed man's rifle, yanked it away, threw it to the ground, and then punched him in the abdomen, sending him flying into a wall where he passed out. With Tang Chen's support, the situation quickly reversed. The remaining armed personnel, seeing the unfavorable turn, tried to retreat but were hit in the legs by Tony's pulse cannons and fell to the ground. The last armed man, unwilling to give up, pulled out a grenade, intending to destroy the lab along with himself. "Careful," Tang Chen shouted, rushing over to grab his wrist, snatching the grenade, and then forcefully throwing it into the ventilation duct. The grenade exploded inside the duct, causing no casualties. After the battle, the lab was a mess, with much equipment damaged, unconscious armed personnel lying on the floor, and the air thick with the smell of gunpowder and burning. Tony removed his armor's helmet, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and looked at Tang Chen. "Those armor-piercing rounds earlier were strange, they could penetrate my armor. Do you know where they came from?" Tang Chen picked up an armor-piercing round from the ground and handed it to Tony. "Look at this warhead. It contains Kryptonian alloy components, provided by the Zod family. Stain has partnered with the Zod family, they want your arc reactor technology to create more powerful weapons." Tony's expression instantly turned serious. He took the armor-piercing round, walked to the microscope, and examined it carefully. "There really are alien metal components. This density and energy conductivity are even more advanced than my titanium alloy. The Zod family, is that the alien force you mentioned that wants to steal your life codex?" "It's them." Tang Chen nodded. "They not only want the life codex but also Earth's advanced technology. Stain's Ironmonger project is a perfect stepping stone for them. Once they get the arc reactor technology and combine it with Kryptonian technology, they can create weapons powerful enough to rule Earth." Just then, Natasha's voice came through the communicator. "Tang Chen, Tony, the armed personnel outside the factory have been cleared, but we found a strange signal emitter sending data into space. It's likely transmitting intelligence to the Zod family." "What?" Tang Chen and Tony exchanged glances and immediately ran towards the factory's perimeter. The emitter was hidden in the bushes next to the factory gate, a palm-sized black device with a flashing red indicator light, emitting faint radio waves. Tang Chen picked up the emitter and could feel that the energy fluctuations inside were completely consistent with the Zod family's weapons. It was clearly their specialized equipment. "How much data has been sent?" Tony asked, pulling out a tablet to connect to the emitter. "Most of it is basic arc reactor data and the factory's defense layout. The location of the core laboratory wasn't sent out," Natasha said. I've already cut off the signal and notified SHIELD's technical department to analyze the data and see if we can trace the receiving signal's location. Tang Chen looked at the emitter in his hand, his heart heavy. He had initially thought the Zod family would only target him and the Life Codex, but he hadn't expected them to have already begun infiltrating Earth's tech industry, collaborating with ambitious individuals like Stain, and gradually realizing their conspiracy. This attack was just the beginning. If they didn't stop them soon, more Earth forces would collude with them in the future, bringing greater disaster to Earth. Where is Stain now? Tang Chen asked, a hint of coldness in his eyes. He had to find Stain, clarify the details of his cooperation with the Zod family, and stop their next plan. According to Jarvis's tracking, he is currently at Stark Industries' headquarters building, debugging the Ironmonger armor. Tony's tone also became serious. He got some basic data, and combined with stealing my reactor before, he should be able to activate the Ironmonger now. We must stop him. Tang Chen's tone was firm. Once the Ironmonger is activated, coupled with the Kryptonian alloy weapons provided by the Zod family, the consequences would be unimaginable. I'll go to the headquarters building to stop Stain. You two are responsible for contacting S.H.I.E.L.D. to request support and simultaneously track the Zod family's signal source. Wait, I'm coming with you. Tony immediately refused. That's my armor. I understand its weaknesses better than you. Besides, Stain is my old adversary. I must deal with him myself. Natasha nodded. I'll stay at the factory to handle the aftermath and coordinate SHIELD's support. Be careful, Stain's Ironmonger armor is very powerful, especially with the armor-piercing rounds. You must work together and not fight head-on. Tang Chen and Tony exchanged glances, both seeing determination in each other's eyes. One was a Kryptonian orphan with alien superpowers, the other a genius inventor mastering cutting-edge technology. They were originally teasing rivals, but now, due to a common enemy, they had become allies fighting side by side. As they left the factory, the sun had risen, dispelling the morning mist. Tang Chen looked at Tony's Mark IV armor glowing blue in the sunlight, his heart filled with complexity. Earth's technology and alien superpowers, originally two parallel lines, had become intertwined due to the Zod family's invasion, jointly protecting the safety of this planet. Ready, alien kid. Tony patted his shoulder, his tone light, yet unable to hide the seriousness in his eyes. Ready, tech geek. Tang Chen smiled, his Kryptonian genes becoming active, power surging through his veins. This time, let's show them what we're made of. The two ran towards the Stark Industries headquarters building, leaving behind the gradually calming Malibu factory, and heading towards the impending fierce battle. Tang Chen knew that this battle was not only to stop Stain's Ironmonger project but also to thwart the Zod family's conspiracy, to protect Earth, and to safeguard his adoptive parents and everyone he cared about. He touched the good luck charm in his inner pocket and then looked at the armor-piercing round in his hand, his resolve growing stronger. No matter if the enemies came from Earth or the stars, no matter how powerful their weapons and technology, he would use his strength, combined with Tony's technology and SHIELD's support, to defeat them one by one, protect this planet he deeply loved, and safeguard this hard-won peace. The sunlight shone on the two of them, casting long shadows, like two parallel beams of light, running towards the center of danger and towards their mission to protect Earth. Smoke billowed across the plaza in front of Stark Industries headquarters. Obadiah Stain, clad in his custom-built Ironmonger armor, was like a mobile steel fortress. Each punch was accompanied by a metallic roar, smashing deep indentations into the ground. His armor was larger and heavier than Tony's Mark IV, with twin autocannons on his shoulders spewing flames, and blue energy projectiles exploding across the plaza, leaving behind smoking craters. Tony, your little toy is due for retirement. Stain's laughter boomed through his armor's loudspeaker, filled with arrogant triumph. With an arc reactor and Kryptonian alloy, my Ironmonger is the true ultimate weapon. Tony, wearing his Mark IV armor, nimbly dodged attacks in the air, his palm repulsors continuously retaliating, yet he was unable to penetrate the Ironmonger's armor. The Kryptonian alloy's defense far exceeded his expectations, the repulsors only leaving faint scorch marks on the surface. Where did you get alien metal? Tony's voice held a hint of urgency. His armor's energy reserves had dropped to 40%, and his left arm's thruster was malfunctioning from a recent impact, preventing high-speed maneuvers. Tang Chen was entangled with the remaining armed personnel on the ground, his tactical suit already blackened by smoke, his face smudged with dust, yet he showed no sign of retreat. He evaded an armed man's bayonet, then slammed him to the ground, but his peripheral vision caught sight of 3 black dots in the sky. Stain's armed drones, approaching Tony from different directions, their missiles already locked onto the target, emitting an ear-splitting lock-on sound. "Tony, watch out for the drones," Tang Chen shouted, wanting to rush over for support, but he was held back by 2 armed men wielding armor-piercing rifles. Their bullets, tipped with Kryptonian alloy, couldn't harm him, but they could restrict his movements, preventing him from breaking free immediately. Tony heard the warning and immediately turned to dodge, but due to his left arm thruster malfunction, his movement was a half-beat slow. One drone seized the opportunity, launching 2 air-to-air missiles, trailing white smoke, towards his back. "Jarvis, activate the anti-missile system," Tony yelled, only to hear his AI butler's warning: "Anti-missile system energy insufficient, unable to activate. Suggest emergency evasion." Just as the missiles were about to hit Tony, Tang Chen suddenly broke free from the armed men's entanglement and leapt. His body shot into the sky like an arrow from a bow, the solar energy within him surging violently in his urgency, flowing through his blood and throughout his body, forming a powerful upward thrust. The hovering technique he had practiced repeatedly was completely broken through at this moment. He no longer needed to deliberately control energy balance, but instead let the solar energy envelop his body, like an invisible thruster, carrying him towards the missiles at an astonishing speed. Whiz! Tang Chen heard only the whistling wind in his ears, the ground scenery rapidly shrank in his eyes, and the battle in the plaza became blurred light and shadow. He could clearly feel the energy streamlines around his body, like countless tiny light bands pulling him, allowing him to freely adjust his direction and speed. This was no longer his previous clumsy hovering, but true flight, stable, fast, flexible, like a red lightning bolt streaking across the sky. Now, Tang Chen focused, gathering energy to his shoulder, and slammed into one of the missiles at an even faster speed. Bang! The missile was knocked off course by his impact, flying towards an empty area in the distance, exploding in the air with a burst of orange-red fire. He didn't pause, immediately turning and using the same method to hit the other missile. The missile was precisely pushed by him into a drone, and both exploded simultaneously in the air, fragments raining down. Seeing this, the remaining 2 drones immediately shifted their targets to Tang Chen, their autocannon bullets showering down. Tang Chen nimbly rolled and dodged in the air, while simultaneously gathering energy to his eyes, 2 thin heat visions shooting out and precisely hitting the drones. The propellers were instantly melted, the drones lost balance, spiraling and plummeting to the ground, crashing heavily in the plaza, turning into a pile of scrap metal. The entire process took less than 10 seconds, and Tang Chen hovered steadily in front of Tony, less than 5 meters away from him. The sun shone on him, sweat trickling down his cheeks, dripping into the air, and being dispersed by the high-speed airflow. He could feel the solar energy within him still faintly surging. The feeling of flight was both strange and familiar, as if he was born to do so. Tony's armor faceplate slowly opened. He looked at Tang Chen hovering in the air, his eyes wide, his voice filled with disbelief. "All right, I take back my previous, human kite, comment. This thing, is it a Kryptonian jet? Faster and more agile than my thrusters?" Tang Chen smiled, and just as he was about to speak, he heard Stain's roar from the ground. "You clueless alien brat, how dare you ruin my plans." The ironmonger's shoulder autocannons once again aimed at Tang Chen, and blue energy projectiles whizzed towards him. "Watch out!" Tony immediately shielded Tang Chen, activating his armor's remaining energy to form an energy shield in front of him. Bang! The energy projectile hit the shield, creating a violent explosion. Tony's armor was pushed back several meters by the impact, and the shield instantly dissipated. "You're running low on energy. Retreat for now, I'll handle him," Tang Chen said to Tony, then turned and flew towards the ironmonger. His flying speed increased, leaving streaks of afterimages in the air, making it difficult for Stain's autocannon to lock onto him. "Don't think flying makes you special," Stain roared, activating the ironmonger's thrusters and chasing after Tang Chen. The 2 figures engaged in a fierce aerial pursuit above the Stark Industries headquarters building. Tang Chen dodged attacks with flexible flying skills, occasionally retaliating with heat vision. Stain relied on heavy armor and powerful firepower, each attack causing a deafening roar in the air. Tony landed on the ground and quickly checked his armor's damage. "Jarvis, how long will it take to repair the left arm thruster? How much energy is left?" "Left arm thruster repair will take 3 minutes. Remaining energy is 15%, only enough for 1 full power pulse cannon attack." Jarvis's voice remained calm. Tony watched the battle in the air, his brows furrowed. Although Tang Chen's flying skills were agile, he lacked combat experience, almost getting hit by the Ironmonger's attacks several times. And the Ironmonger's armor was too thick, heat vision only leaving scorch marks on the surface, unable to cause substantial damage. I must find his weakness, Tony muttered, his gaze quickly scanning the Ironmonger's armor. The armor connection at the neck was thinner than other parts, and it was a critical node for energy transmission. If he could hit there, it might disable some of the armor's functions. Tang Chen, attack his neck armor. That's the weak point, Tony shouted into the communicator, simultaneously activating his armor's repair program. I'll support you in 3 minutes, hold on. Tang Chen heard Tony's reminder and immediately adjusted his tactics. He deliberately slowed down, luring Stain closer, then suddenly turned, gathered energy in his right hand, and punched the Ironmonger's neck with all his might. Clang! The punch hit the armor connection, emitting a crisp metallic clang. Stain's body jolted violently, the armor's head control module experienced a momentary malfunction, and his flight path began to wobble. Stain roared, forcefully stabilizing the armor. The shoulder-mounted autocannon aimed at Tang Chen again. I'm going to blast you to smithereens. Just then, Tony's voice came through. Tang Chen, get out of the way. Tang Chen immediately dodged to the side, only to see a blue pulse beam shoot from the ground, precisely hitting the Ironmonger's neck armor connection. A crack had already been made there by Tang Chen's punch, and the pulse beam instantly penetrated the crack, hitting the internal energy transmission lines. Sizzle, black smoke billowed from the Ironmonger's armor, the shoulder autocannon stopped firing, and the thrusters became unstable, causing the body to plummet towards the ground. No, my Ironmonger! Stain's desperate scream echoed through the loudspeaker as the Ironmonger crashed heavily onto the plaza, its outer armor cracking and completely losing power. Tang Chen slowly descended to the ground, walked in front of the Ironmonger, and looked at the disheveled Stain inside the armor, his tone cold. Game over. The Kryptonian alloy the Zod family gave you couldn't save you. Stain's face was filled with despair and unwillingness. You won't win. The Zod family will come to Earth soon, they will destroy everything and rebuild Kryptonian. You will all die. That's none of your concern. Natasha arrived with S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, pulled Stain out of the armor, and handcuffed him. You are suspected of endangering national security and illegally possessing alien weapons. What awaits you is the judgment of the law. Tony walked up to Tang Chen, patted his shoulder, his tone filled with genuine admiration. That was excellent flying. Much steadier than my first test flight of Mark 1. However, if you want to make your flight more efficient, you can come to my lab, and I'll help you design an energy guidance device that can save you 30% of your sun energy consumption. Really? That would be great. Tang Chen's eyes lit up instantly. Although his flying had broken through a bottleneck, he could feel the energy draining quickly. With Tony's technical support, he would definitely be able to fly longer. Of course, but there's a condition, Tony said with a smile. You have to help me test the defensive strength of my new armor. Use your heat vision and strength to see if you can penetrate it. Don't worry, I'll take safety precautions. Tang Chen smiled helplessly. All right, it's a deal. As the sun set, the shadow of the Stark Industries headquarters building enveloped the plaza. The battle was over, agents were clearing the scene, damaged equipment was being transported away one by one, and the smell of gunpowder in the air gradually dissipated. Tang Chen stood in the center of the plaza, looking at the distant sky, his heart filled with emotion. He had finally mastered the ability to fly, taking another step closer to realizing his dream of rebuilding Kryptonian. At the same time, he also understood that he couldn't fight the Zod family alone. Only by fighting alongside allies like Tony and Natasha could he protect Earth and the people he cared about. What are you thinking about? Tony walked up to him and handed him a bottle of water. I'm thinking about the Mars terraforming plan and the threat of the Zod family. Tang Chen took the water, took a sip. Stain said the Zod family will come to Earth soon, we must be prepared. Don't worry, I'm here. Tony's tone was firm. I've already started developing a new generation of armor, incorporating anti-Kryptonian alloy materials, and I'm also analyzing the Life Codex data you brought to see if I can find technology to counter the Zod family. S.H.I.E.L.D. is also strengthening global surveillance. Once a Zod family spaceship is detected, we can respond immediately. Tang Chen nodded, his worries gradually dissipating. He looked at Tony, then at Natasha, who was directing agents to clear the scene in the distance, and suddenly felt that even if the future was full of danger, as long as he had these allies by his side, he would have the confidence to face everything. When they left the plaza, night had already fallen, and the lights of the Stark Industries headquarters building illuminated, like a brilliant lighthouse, lighting up the New York night sky. Tang Chen sat in Tony's sports car, watching the night view flash by outside the window, feeling the excitement of his flying breakthrough and the warmth of his allies' company. By the way, your flying doesn't have a name yet, does it? Tony suddenly asked. All my armors have names, your flying should also have a codename, like Kryptonian Wings, or Sunflyer. Tang Chen smiled, looked at the moon outside the window, and said firmly, let's call it Wings of Guardianship. It's not just for flying, but more importantly, for protecting the people I care about, for protecting this Earth. Tony was stunned for a moment, then laughed. Good name, it suits you well. Wings of Guardianship, Tang Chen, sounds like a true superhero. The sports car sped through the night, heading towards Tony's lab. Tang Chen leaned back in his seat, closed his eyes, and in his mind, he saw the smiles of his adoptive parents, the red surface of Mars, the black armor of the Zod family, and the figures of Tony and Natasha. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe for more videos.